Look who's out here re-upping their sub like some kind of hero. Hello, everyone. How is it going? My name is Endeavorance. It is Wednesday, the 22nd of a month, and there's a year two. And also, it's Worldbuilding Wednesdays. I am joined today by the incredibly talented Sir Pfeffers. And I remembered what direction to point, which is a really big, it's a big win for we truly did it. Oh, Pfeff, oh no. Hold on. I think your audio is not getting quite picked up. There we go. Say hello to the people.
I am Sir Pfeffers, the home dungeon master of the long shot table, and I am so excited to be here today to hang out with Dev and talk world building shenanigans and all sorts of fun stuff. I'm literally, I've got a notepad That's how excited I am that I'm willing to. I'm motivated to take notes.
He has a whole notepad ready so he can write down the dumb shit I say and hit me back with it later in the evening. Every contradiction is going to be logged in triplicate.
Doesn't know how tall he is.
That's true, actually. That is legitimately true. And if you are not familiar with Fef's work, as he said, he is the DM of the Long Shot Table. I learned this today, not that part, but this next part I learned today, that Long Shot, the show and Fef's work, have been on the front page of Twitch's D&D section for 3 years running. It is a thrice weekly show, to my understanding.
Yes.
That's bonkers town.
It's a lot. We've been in the top 1% of the D&D Twitch category for 3 years running. And so I run 3 campaigns a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. We're currently in the season finale and currently wrapping up our campaigns before we start our summer series, which is a whole other thing. But yes, generally 3 episodes from 3 different campaigns a week. And that's kind of just been my life. I've got I don't let anyone see it, but I've got a beautiful mind crazy wall, like corkboard thing. And I constantly have to go back to it and just stare at it and rearrange things as things kind of go and stuff like that, because it's improv, you know what I mean? I've always introduced myself as not as a DM, but actually as a very lazy author, because I tried to do writing. I set off many years ago to write a fantasy epic, and my God, writing is hard.
Whomst among us is not.
I'm not a disciplined man. I'm a lazy individual, and so I discovered D&D and I was like, I can just give my protagonists free will. This is great.
Why write the story when someone else can do it for you? That's what I always say.
If you're good at improving, it's actually a viable option. I'm just saying.
It's truly hilarious to me how many DMs I've talked to that are like, I tried to write a book and then I became a DM. And it's like, yeah, dog.
Yeah, it's real. It's real.
Oh,
Writing is
man.
Insanely difficult.
Yep.
I have nothing but respect for authors.
Amazing. Imagine being a writer.
Couldn't be me.
Could not be me. Gina is here. Oh, hey, it's Gina. Hello. Salutations. Welcome in. And thank you everybody for giving her the warm welcome. It's World Building Wednesday. And on World Building Wednesdays, we build Wednesdays, actually. We created Wednesdays for this purpose.
We pretend to be God.
I don't pretend. I've never been pretending. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this is the face reveal of Yahweh. Hello, it's me.
Old Testament Yahweh. So now we gotta stone whoever mentions you.
God, I am Old Testament as fuck. Let me tell you.
Salt the earth.
One of my favorite songs.
Animal that they owned, kill them.
One of my favorite songs starts with the lyric, "I'm an Old Testament kind of guy. I like my coffee black and my parole's denied." Which is just such a good line, and I love it so very much.
So many problematic things with the Old Testament. There's a lot of fucked up stuff.
Ollie says, "Well, darn, I'm wearing mixed fibers." Get smote, honestly.
Is that shrimp?
Oh my God. Unbelievable.
I live in Louisiana, of course it's shrimp.
God, I could go for a good shrimp boil right now. Oh man.
I live in Louisiana, but I don't go in for crawfish. I don't like the whole twist the head off, suck the tail, and eat the poop. And there's a lot of weird stuff that goes into crawfish that I'm just not into.
I understand having proximity to crabs, and it's a lot of work for not a lot of payoff. But the flip side, like the appeal, I believe. This is a world building show, by the way, but the appeal of eating shellfish is, I believe, the shared communal experience of like cooking it all, dumping it all out onto the table. You're having some beers, you're hanging out, it's big picnic.
And you can do that with gumbo. There's other ways that you can have a perfectly normal ass experience. I got brought to a craw bake and had like 2 crawfish and was like,
for an elder
cool.
is a
Thanks.
Kryptonite resub for 14 months. Holy shit! Sorry to cut you off there, but and
good.
Professor with a year. My God.
Amazing.
Okay, 14 months and a year back to back. Hello, everybody.
That's loyalty right there.
That is wild. Hello, former future frog. How is it going? Welcome.
Former
welcome.
future frog.
It's really confusing. It's difficult to comprehend. Yeah, it's like a previously they were a future frog, but that's not the case anymore. Which I believe makes them a present frog. Which I think is that just a frog? This is a world building show.
Crabs.
So crawfish. We've got a lot to talk about today, and if we do manage to get there at some point, I believe Fef has even potentially brought us a husk of a world for us to probably end up putting a big fleshy hole in, but that's just because that's what we do here on this show.
It's very think tank approach where
yes.
I've got a world and I've got kind of an idea, but then I had to throw out like the whole plot. So now I have to like revisit that, and apparently 1D&D is reintroducing bastions, which is pretty cool, and we can get into that later. Yeah, on the topic of crabs real quick, I had a one shot. I don't know why everyone likes crabs, but I made the idea of like these big kaiju crab problems, and every single player I pitched this one shot to was like, well, we gotta befriend the crabs. And I was like, okay, I gotta stop calling them crabs because everyone automatically loves the crabs, and I'm trying to make big scary kaiju crabs that run on moss from the moon. You know what I mean? Like,
sure. Pretty standard
crabs.
Stuff.
And they're like, no, they're gonna be our friends. And so I just started calling them evil crustacea, and that worked.
Evil crustacea. I love it. Wait, first of all, crustacea. Is that a thing? Is that a word? There's no word that crustaceans is a word, but is crustacea as like a general reference to the world of crustaceans, right?
Crustacean. Yeah, crustacea. It's
having relevance to crustaceans. There you go.
It means to be crustacean.
There you go.
Any various widespread arthropods of the class Crustacea that live mostly in water and have a hard shell, segmented body, and jointed appendages.
And we can put that in our world. And because we can.
Barnacles are in the same family as crabs.
Barnacles?
Barnacles.
Aren't barnacles closer to like a plant?
You'd think so.
I'm really confused by the entirety of
problematic barnacles.
Problematic barnacles?
With moss from the moon.
Problematic barnacles sounds like a really good cover band for like sea shanties, but everyone in the band is a sinner. Like a black a black metal
Look who's out here
cover band for sea shanties.
Like some kind
I've
hero.
Googled imaged barnacles, and man, up close they aren't.
Oh, you don't
great.
want to look at barnacles up close. No, it's not great. It's not good, and it makes me very uncomfortable.
Definitely not plant-like.
So here we're barnacle streaming right now. This is
barnacle streaming.
Yeah, this is welcome back to my barnacle. You've heard of bathtub streams. You've heard of hot tub streams. This is a barnacle stream.
SpongeBob hours. Yeah, barnacles.
Let's talk about world building.
All right, yeah. So what is
go ahead. What is a world? So first
Why
up,
am I hosting? I'm so sorry. I'm used to it.
I have just posted into chat if you would like to submit a viewer submitted question for us to get around to later on in the show. You can head to trail.as/ww. It's also in the chat, and you can submit a question. We will go through and answer whatever we can. I unfortunately cannot guarantee that we'll get to every single question, but we'll do what we can. But before we get to that, I've got a whole bunch of just discussion topics, just things to chat about. within the world of world building, within the world of building.
Something I love. I love world building, and I thrive on change. I have to fight the urge to constantly like rearrange my bedroom and studio every couple of months. Like I am polar opposite to the person who's like consistency.
Nothing can
actually
change.
wilt over time if I haven't like changed everything. So world building kind of scratches that itch, because it's like, oh, and over here you've got the snow-peaked lands of Nimma, and and over here we've got just
The snow-peaked lands of Nimma.
I don't know. I was gonna throw out some gibberish and hit the filter of like, don't say anything that could be a reference to anything else, and out came Nimma.
For what it's worth, it's very difficult to say a new name about something, or to name something new, and not have it already be taken. So
Yeah.
very well could already have the mountains of Nimma out there. We'll find out. But actually, let's start there, I think.
Names?
Well, not names. We'll get to that. But
Okay.
let's start with the start. Give us a little overview, I guess, about your sort of journey into world building. I know you said that you were originally trying to do like authoring. I'm assuming the world building part started before the attempting to write a book part. So I'm curious how you kind of like got started, what your like path through the world of world building is like.
How I started is not how I recommend people to start. How I started was kind of the hard way, which was I invented the magic system first, which was based around non-linearity, and how if you were to be outside of time, you wouldn't have one thought after another. You would have all your thoughts always, and therefore became a much more powerful entity. And that's how I kind of explained gods, and that's kind of how I explained like forgiveness and religion and stuff like that, like time travel and shit. And I kind of I was really stoned, and and I kind of came up with all of that, and then built all of these, and built if you've ever heard of the egg theory, I built the celestial what do I call it? The astral current that wove in between worlds, and that was the flow of souls. And once every single perspective had been achieved, then God could be born from the astral current. I came up with a really, really big brain thing, and then I was like, okay, if this is D&D, we can't just start with that. You have to just be a guy in a tavern, or some girl, trying to save these, ranchers or whatever, and then unpeel the onion. But you got to start, small, and that's actually a really important factor to how I would recommend approaching world building. And that is, you've got to keep in mind that you're coming from the perspective of the players. You have to introduce information from the perspective of the players. So if you're going to introduce a city, have one or two like visual paragraphs to kind of stick in their head, whether it's you're on a cliffside overlooking this lighthouse that's probably important, or oh, the city is very quiet and there's a lot of soldiers around, martial law is enforced, and kind of what are these tonal notes that you can, for each different area, kind of sink into the party's headspace. Go ahead.
It's very funny to hear that approach, right? The I came up with the explanation of God, and then realized that that's irrelevant, because like
none of that matters to the guy who's trying to keep his purse.
And it's so difficult, even if you wanted to loop that in as early as you could into a campaign. If you're doing a like starting from level 1 kind of campaign, especially, you can start by being like, hey, everyone at my table, I'm going to start with this monologue that explains the foundations of the universe, and they're going to be like, so do I roll the 20-sided one or the and like they're not thinking about that.
That's a diamond. No, that's a pyramid. No, that's a dodecahedron. Hang on.
You're not going to internalize that, and you're not going to and you're just not going to have the ability to care yet. But the cool part is when that does matter, and you can get to a point where the foundations of the cosmos and reality are pertinent to the story. Like that's working your way there makes that payoff super worth it. But unfortunately for the world builders in us, the fun part has to wait until that payoff.
Absolutely.
But boy, howdy, is coming up with God's fun.
It's so goddamn fun. I have like 12 aspects of sentience in my Terraform campaign, and they are affected by humanity. They weren't there first. They showed up. The party finds out later that they showed up as a byproduct of sentience. But then they entered the mortal realm, and suddenly they're forced to have every thought one after another, and completely lost all grand plan of why they were there, and just had to kind of do things as they saw fit and start fighting each other and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. To be brief, to scrunch it up.
When have we ever been brief?
I saw a YouTube video called The Egg Theory. Wholeheartedly recommend it.
It's the
guy
Kirk's
gets in a
Gazette
car
one, right?
accident. I believe so.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, what happened? He was like, oh, you got in a car accident, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, was I about my kids? He goes, that's a good sign. You're improving. He goes, what do you mean? We're going to send you back in, and you're going to be born as this small Indian girl in the 17th century. And he was like, I'm sorry. And he was like, oh, so you are everyone. It's not that you're reborn and other people are reborn. It's that you're everyone. And once you've been everyone, then you're born as God. And so I took that and made it like a multi-planar astral current thing. And that got complicated really fast. It got really complicated really fast. But the thing that kind of helps people click, I'm like, if you were to invent a time machine in the physical realm of your D&D world, it wouldn't work. Because there's only the present. And the bad guys have been figuring out how to do non-linear things, and so they're getting all these powers and stuff like that, which I wholly recommend if you're doing kind of an epic scale D&D campaign to have an Illuminati. Big old scary secret society.
Gotta have a
Bread
scary
and
secret
butter.
society.
They're scary and they're secretive. It's great. You got both.
Because then you get to come up with like so many symbols and sigils, and we like just to, if I can put a sigil on a cape, I'm a happy boy. What can I say?
That's marketing right there. That's marketing.
You gotta have recognizable branding.
Oh, I appreciate the compliment on my mustache.
Yeah, Fev's mustache is number one pretty. We can all agree on that. I strongly
so
agree.
much.
I'm just gonna keep that message pinned in the corner for a little while, I think.
I used to have to put product in it, and now it just grows like this. I don't do anything to the beard anymore.
Oh my god. You're hold on. Can you confirm that you're not lying to me and that that's your mustache's natural appearance?
At Gen Con, I will let you touch all of the facial hair and confirm that there's no product in it.
Unbelievable.
It just grows like this now.
Incredible. Astonishing and wonderful. Excellent accomplishment. Well done. So
world building.
I have I have a list of topics here. Would you like to continue with the talking about God, or?
Nah. Let's talk about the more generalized topics of world building.
Cool. I have a handful of topics here that I'm pretty excited about, and I think we'll be able to get through them all. We've got a handful of hours here.
I believe in us. Chat, do you believe in us?
I wouldn't.
Chat.
Ugh, don't put too much faith. Ugh.
Chat.
I love chat. I love them so very much, and they are near and dear to my heart.
So close to the camera. I got a big head.
Chat is near and dear to my heart. Asking chat to have my back is a surefire way to have chat go 100% against me. Also, they're all just saying egg bite, which is, I want to be clear, egg bite is a term of endearment, I believe. Maybe?
It's more for egg bite.
It's more of just a term of term. So
I hopped into stream for the back end of egg bite.
Egg bite. Thank you. The first thing I have here is going from 0 to 1 with a world. So imagine that you had the thought, I just watched a wonderful world building stream on Endeavorance's Twitch, and it was great and excellent. And before I go sign up for his Patreon, I want to sit down and make a world. How do you go from 0 to 1, right? Like, how do you sit down looking at a blank document and make a world?
And you don't have players yet.
You don't have players.
You don't have characters yet.
You don't have characters. Okay. Maybe you've found a group that wants to play, and now you need to make something.
Sure.
Or maybe you're just starting for the first time ever, but you're sitting down and you're like, I want to make a world. What does that mean?
Okay. So you need hooks. You need little things that are going to be like, ooh, that's interesting. And then you need to seed that throughout your world. So that comes down to setting, and it comes down to location. Over there are the floating islands of the jungle of Yidabadaba, and
I love visiting the floating islands of the jungle of Idibidaba. It's one of my
great.
favorite vacation spots.
Seasonally, it's great. And right now
Well,
there's
yeah.
kind of an economic collapse, and but the
Sure,
islands
the
are still
political
floating,
situation
but
there is pretty tumultuous, but if you can look past that.
it's mostly the oh crap, I forgot the name. What's it? Real estate. The real estate is a nightmare.
Out of control.
Because they float. And so you've got floating islands.
Dope.
That's one part of the map. Maybe it's a bigger part of the whatever have you. And you've got, let's go over here and say maybe you've got some dragon riders. Okay. So how do you merge the two? We've got dragon riders, and now we've got floating islands that they can fortify. And suddenly there's all of this strategy, and the party is like, oh, well, what would that look like? And then you can kind of explore that and stuff like that. And another aspect is to kind of just build a map in general, even if you're going to throw it away by the time and make a new map. But you can look at the map and kind of start visualizing and start figuring out, okay, I'm gonna have a port city over here, and that means there's gonna be trade over there, which means pirates. And if over here we've got this heavily defended area, let's put the capital there.
Look
and
who's out
then
here
start. And you don't have to
re-upping
name
their
anything
sub,
yet.
like
Just
some
start kind
hero.
of start smushing it all together, and then scratching stuff out and keep going, and then find your little inspirational hits. For me, what really clicked for Windfall, which is my Western campaign on Thursdays, is that the capital is the only thing that segments the lowlands by the coast, which have grass and forests and stuff. And
Wow,
then-
what
and
descriptive world building.
Thank you. And then there's just across the map is just this massive cliff that's hundreds of feet high, and up there is all the desert region. And so the capital is like this funnel that you go through. And okay, well, if the capital's there, well, that means that they control all of the trade, and then suddenly trains are getting invented. And how can they expand their territory? Have they expanded too
That
much?
is a
and
prime
stuff like
sub
that.
right
It's
there.
constantly coming up with an idea and then questioning it, filling in the answers, questioning it, filling in the answers, and trying to involve hooks, things that are interesting. Crabs. Oh, sorry, malicious crustacea.
I definitely agree with hooks. I think the one of the most drawing, or I guess fetching things about world building for me is getting that one first idea and then seeing how that sort of fractures out from there. Having one concept, you mentioned floating islands, or in the world that we built on stream recently, the like 2 planes of existence, or one plane is entirely dragons. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
The hook of like some understandable single sentence statement, right? Like, this is only dragons. Okay. How?
Like, that's it?
What?
In the entirety?
And like, what does
is
that
this,
mean? Yeah, like,
Are they all
oh,
just
like
sliding around together in some dismal dark
Just
dimension?
dragon
waiting to
soup?
be- I hate that. Actually, Terry Pratchett did that.
yeah. First of all, just
in his Discworld series.
Terry Pratchett. I want to have the ghost of Terry Pratchett on as a future
He's
guest.
still alive.
No, he's not.
Really?
Terry Pratchett died like famously a few years ago. Am I breaking the news to you that Terry Pratchett is dead? Yeah, dog. His Wikipedia article is a was article. I don't know how to tell you that Terry
Died
Pratchett
in
is dead.
2015.
Dog. He's been dead a few years.
No.
I don't know what to tell you. I didn't know this. I didn't mean.
Oh, my heart. Oh, my heart. Okay, we're good. We still have Brandon Sanderson. I'm a happy camper.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know.
Fuck. Discworld. Okay, we're good.
Terry Pratchett is an incredible world building, and the Discord World series is
Phenomenal.
Discord World. The Disc World series is
Yes.
incredible. It's amazing. It's
So good.
It's so good, and I think if you've ever seen the graph of potential ways to read the novels, it's hysterical. Like, so Terry Pratchett, for those who are not familiar, is a very prolific was a very prolific fantasy author, known for really in-depth world building and a lot of levity and fun. Imagine like if Monty Python were fantasy novels.
That's pretty good.
And they're all in this. A lot of them are in the same world, and a lot of them have a lot of the novels have interweaving plot lines. And so because of that, there's like a graph of all the different sort of like strings of novels through this collective story, and like where you can start different sort of campaigns through
People
this
get
world.
heated.
It's
People get heated.
people get heated over the order and everything. It's very interesting. So
City Watch is my favorite series.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Guards is just very. It's like a really good way to start. I find
Guards
that to be a
is
very
good.
welcoming book.
Yeah, for me it's the one with the golem, and
Yes.
the one with the Thud.
Yes,
and
Thud.
the other one with the golem are my two favorites.
No, wait, yeah, not. You're
The
talking about the
golem
one
is
with
called, like-
Pump, right? With Mr. Pump. The golem's name is Mr. Pump. He's like he was like an underwater
Yes.
golem, and his job was to like pump water, and so his name was Pump.
I'm thinking of something else. Anyway, world building.
Point being, having a hook, as we were talking about, having a hook for your world, having a starting thought that's just like one concept that you can take to its logical extreme within a certain bound. Sometimes that concept doesn't need to be the thing that encompasses the entirety of the world, but maybe just a town or maybe a city, and that's also a perfectly fine place to start, or not even a social center in the world, right? Like a ancient forest could be a great place to start, or any other
Absolutely.
thing that feeds into another ecosystem. Because as we've said before, and as I've said 1,000 times, asking questions about your own world and asking questions to yourself then fractures out so fast, and it gets to the point where you're overwhelmed by the amount of things that you can answer about your world. And
I would say it's impossible to. It can be overwhelming if you're doing it ahead of time, but you're never gonna finish. That's the thing. You're gonna be in game, and they'll ask you a question that you've never thought of. And
well, because
you
they're
gotta be
asking the
able to just
questions
come
that
up
you
with it on the
won't
fly.
ask yourself.
Right. Like, well, how does the sewer system work if it's a floating island? What about the people under the island? And it's like,
Get wrecked, I
great
guess.
question.
Their life is pretty shit, literally.
Back to barnacles.
Back to barnacles. All the way
I don't
back
know,
to
on the
barnacles.
bottom eating everything. I got nothing.
It's really easy to ask yourself the easy questions and ignore the questions that actually do matter. I agree. Like the number of times that I said it on the last week, I said about how I had made an entire campaign and we had gotten to the big finale, and then my players just poked a massive hole in the entire BBEG's like premise.
Yep.
And I was like, well, fuck. Like I never consulted with somebody. I didn't double check my work. I just missed it. And that's on
that
me.
happens. That happens all the time to me, especially when you have a player like Ben Brainerd, who is wildly intelligent and loves to peel the onion and poke and prod. And so it's really easy to just give him a box, and then he really wants to open the box, and he opens the box and give him another box. Inside the box is another box, and he just will lose his marbles. But he'll come up with stuff. He'll come up with solutions that ruin my plot, and I'm gonna have to be like, but it works. And this is a very core part of D&D is improv. You have to be able to roll on your feet. You have to be able to come up with new stuff, and it is totally okay in that moment to be like, to ham it up, to like, huh? Because then they're like, we got him, we got the DM, and then, you know, and that's probably some of the most fulfilling moments that people have in D&D is when they've bamboozled the DM, you know what I mean? And so to ham that up really gives this sense of fulfilling, and that buffers time for you to cook. You gotta cook on the spot. Yeah, and so you can prep and prep and prep and prep. There is a point where you are over prepped, and Gandalf said, "Don't look too far ahead." You know what I mean? I don't even have, when we start my games, I don't have the end game figured out yet. I have all of the incentives and all of the people and all of the enemies in place for the most part, and all of that kind of stuff and what they're up to. But I don't have an end scenario, like a finale figured out yet. I let that cook, based on the players.
And that's, I think, one of the things that, at least for me, when I'm like imagining a world, I'm imagining a scenario, I'm imagining a campaign, that's painful for me, because I know, I agree 100% that like the from my own experience, a folly is to try to coerce the players in campaign to go towards the big finale you had in mind. And for me at least, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but when I'm like just imagining those scenarios, I'm usually starting with the big ending. I'm getting excited. I'm hyping myself up by imagining these incredible heroes fighting the incredible threat and the theatrics that I imagine happening around it, and the scenario that it occurs in, and the location, and how I would describe it, and all that stuff. And that's nothing. You can't do that. You straight up, like, you can have fun thinking about that, but don't expect it. You can
start with an ending, and then cook it all the way to the beginning, and then get rid of the ending, which hurts.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is I'll have, okay, here's my baddies, and I'll link them in with the party's backstories, or maybe whatever happens to them in the beginning, and then I have what they're up to, what they're motivated to do, these baddies, and then feel it out as we go. You know, what's the party up to? What can we explore and expound upon here and there, and go with that. Just make a bunch of different endings. Yeah, that's true, but you're still putting parameters up around your mind, and your protagonists of your story have free will, and they're gonna surprise you.
Yeah, pneumatic expert Heston over here says, I have an issue with DMing where I know the start and the end, but I have issues getting from said start to end. And yeah, it depends on your use case, right? If you're writing a novel, 100%, that's perfectly fine. You're fully in control of the story. You're trying to go from point A to B, C, D, E, F, G, and then ultimately towards the end that you want to get to. In a tabletop campaign, you can't account for the incredible level of variability that autonomous human beings bring when they are a part of your story. And
your job ultimately is to entertain them and reward them for doing the work for you.
Yeah. And I think one of the useful, if I could give a tip there, I guess it would be always have your key flashpoint moments that you're picturing as detached from context as possible, because you can bring them into a given campaign whenever you want them to occur if you can slot them in to a given thing, right? If you need to, think of it like you're holding two chains, right? And you've got a link that you can connect them with. That link is the scenario you want to have happen, and the two chains are the campaign up to now, and then where you're going from here. Right there. You need to connect them. You've got a whole bunch of little links that you can just slot in there and continue the chain. If you try to build it such that you're going to append this to the end of a given chain, or you're going to only ever use this thing, you're setting yourself up for requiring so much more railroading to allow you to do the thing you want to do. But if you can say, I know I want to have a scenario in which, like, maybe this creature or some flavor of this creature is there, these stakes are there, these rewards are there, these things are able to be missed, keep that just like as an abstract combination of like encounters and concepts, and wait for the moment to actually leverage it rather than moving your players towards it. I promise it'll come up sooner than you expect, and you'll be a lot less stressed about your players going off in the wrong direction. You know, you can feel confident that whatever direction they decide to walk in is the right direction.
Generally, I don't touch plot until I have characters.
Yes.
I stick with the world building. I stick with, all right, here's these big baddies. Here's what they're up to. And then once it's, can I give it a little more of a detailed example?
Please.
Terraform, my Tuesday campaign. I had a plan, and then I was given the roster of players, of characters. Which is one of them. I used to be a shooting star granting wishes, and I am now on the planet, and I want to go back up into the stars. That's one. The other one is I am not her daughter, but I am her husband's daughter, which was a djinn that cheated on her and made me. Now the djinn's gone, and both of us are looking for him.
Okay.
I was given, so that's Taylor and Dorky. And then Ben was, I'm looking for my dad. He's an artificer. And I know he's still alive because this robot arm I got still works that he made. And then I got, I am an Asimir cleric that wants to switch gods and have been possessed by the avatar of a third evil god. And then my last one, I am a dragon rider, and I don't have any of my memories. I'm a warforged, and I've actually been sent by the elves to retrieve Ben's dad as well, so that the elves can, start.
Ben's dad is a very, in-demand person.
So it was very much like, okay, I've been given a whole lot of different aesthetics. I've got the holy aspect, I've got the artificer aspect, and I've got the primordial djinn aspect. How do I make all of this work? How do I move forward from that? And I didn't have any of that figured out because I just built a world with all the nobility and all the churches and how they were functioning and stuff like that and all working together. And now it was, okay, where are these two dudes? Where are these two weirdos? How can I integrate that? And so I built this whole thing because one of the characters wasn't connected to any of that. He was like, I am trying to switch from Amis to Amora, but Despair, the third god, has messed with my bloodline and has activated it, and now an ancient ancestor that he introduced into my bloodline has taken over my consciousness. And that is totally a whole other thing than the other stuff going on. And so you gotta cook all that together. But you don't have to worry about any of that when you're world building. You just gotta get the scene, the setting and stuff like that figured out, and then you've got plenty of stuff to pull from for your plot.
As you were describing those characters, like innately in my head, I was like, how can I make these characters all intertwined and do all the, like, how can I abuse this?
Mine got weird. We're currently in our season finale. Next Tuesday will be our last episode.
Go follow Fef. You can click on his name right on the stream title so that you can watch that.
And if you want to get caught up, you can go to the YouTube, also called Long Shot, where I've been doing this for 4 years, man. I've been doing this for 4.5 years, coming up on 5 now. So the YouTube is got thousands of hours of D&D from people you like from the internet. So feel free to head on over there.
It's a veritable gold mine.
It's a lot. And if you go back far enough, you can see where I was starting off, because the templates don't look very good, but the stories are still good, so
Fef, we have a viewer request here that I have a redeemable on my channel that is called Dev Rolls Dice, and it is I roll some amount of dice somehow. I would like to we've just gotten from Sky a request for me to roll dice, but I think I would like to pass that responsibility on over to you. So
I
if you would
can-
like
I
to
can handle
roll
it.
any number of any type of dice and let me know the number.
I got you. I'm ready. Always have dice on hand. That's what I've learned. Ah, I dropped one of my rings. All right, 2d20.
Okay.
Observe the boyos. They're beautiful. Huh. I've got combined 14, a 10 and a 4.
14. Thank you very much.
I am
Congratulations on your
happy to be of
14, Sky.
assistance.
What you were saying, though, about waiting until you get all those character descriptions.
Peace, starlings, for an elder is among us.
100%. Starting, if we can put all of this together, starting with that one hook, determining maybe there's probably going to be some kind of combination of that primary hook that you came up with, and likely the problem with the world, right? Like the BBEG's goal, focus, or whatever is gonna be in some way usually tied to whatever the primary hook of your world is. From there, you can work backwards. We talked about that big finale. If you do imagine that big finale, you work backwards. How did the BBEG get there? And why? And who was with them? What did they do? What impacts on the world did they have up until that point? Which usually from there, you're going to get to your underground network of bad guys, probably a bunch of different organizations, some who are trying to stop the bad guys, some who are trying to help, some who are neutral. And you can fracture out all of those things, all in service of building towards that finale of, or that you imagine. Whether or not you get to that finale is irrelevant because you're using it as just foundation.
Yeah, because it's the journey, ultimately.
Yeah. And so then you've got all these moving parts already without even touching a character. And that's, I think, a very resilient way to build your campaign, because it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter what the characters are doing. This is all happening anyway. Then that means that the characters have complete agency over interacting with the story, as opposed to everything being predicated on their decision making.
Yeah, their decision making has to feel like it's affecting the world. It has to, or else they're just in a movie and they're just walking along, witnessing everything like a bunch of chumps.
Yeah.
What
Although
I did,
there are some movies that are very much worth witnessing. But
True.
when I'm doing that, I'm trying to sit in a chair with some popcorn, not make a character and wait to roll.
people are here to go on a fulfilling journey and be entertained. And they want to be the heroes. They want to be the protagonists. Even if that hero is, I would really like to get back to my swamp and people stop bothering me.
Mm-hmm.
You are the hero of that journey. And your actions should feel like you're going in that direction or being thwarted from an outside force from that direction and overcoming it, even if, or an internal, there's lots of different types of struggle. What I did so I had my world for Terraform. And so I was like, okay, we've got an artificer and a djinn, which is like a very powerful primordial, both missing. Okay. Who can handle a djinn? A big scary Illuminati faction, which I named the Chained Circle. And what they've been doing.
Hold on. Did you say change circle or chained?
Chained, like
okay,
chained
got it.
up. The Chained Circle. And what they've been doing is there's a fun little magic item called an iron flask.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know of the iron flask?
I do know of the iron flask.
Well, Chad, it's like a Pokeball.
Please tell them.
It's like a Pokeball, and you can just point it at anything, at any creature, and be like, get in the bottle. And if they fail their wisdom save, they get in the bottle, like a genie lamp. But when you release them, they are your ally. They're charmed by you. They are your ally for 1 hour, and then it wears off. But there's nothing in the item description that says you can't just be like, hey, before the hour's up, get back in the bottle. Because they have to. Because they're your ally. They're charmed. So what my Illuminati Chained Circle did was they started bottling up genies. They started bottling up jinns, and they put them all to work, constantly surveying and countering the wish spell. No one is allowed to cast wish without the chain circle's leave, because the jinn are on a rotation of constantly anti-wishing, essentially.
That's amazing.
And so yeah, and so I was like, okay, well, let's think this out. How could they possibly have access to that? How could they possibly achieve that if the Feywild exists, if hell exists, if all these other dimensions of the mortal plane exist? Okay, well, they couldn't. So let's have this world closed off by the gods. Okay, so now the gods are involved. Okay, now I can work Jake's character in. So all the gods worked together to close the gates of hell, and Tempestos, the Stormfather, closed the door in his name and stuff like that. And Despair in the last second was like, oh fuck, wait a minute, this goes against my character, my whatever. I want Despair, so he saved one fallen angel, and seeded that into a bloodline, etc., with magic. Don't think about it too much. And now he's involved, because now he's got an authority and an angle to play. And so the party, to thwart the chain circle, has to reopen the gates of hell, and all the gates. And then all of the jinn will be so overwhelmed by trying to manage all the wishes from every dimension that they will fall apart. And so through all of this, we managed to pull from every single person's thing. We've got the jinn, we've got Thranegar, the artificer dad, who is also captured, and he's secretly been studying the jinn and figuring out electricity and stuff like that. And everyone's got something to do. It's bonkers. And to the point of world building, I like to do these ominous little things every now and then not explain them at all. So we started this season, and I was like, Ben, you're just walking to a city? And he was like, yep. And I was like, cool, roll a d12 for me. And he was like, why? I was like, you're gonna find out. So roll a d12 for me. I promise you'll find out. And he was like, I don't like that. And I was like, yeah, I know. And so he rolls a d12. I was like, all right, cool. So the 12-sided moon in the sky that's always been there does the thing it always has done every once in a while, and changes sides quickly. What's that? What was you roll? I rolled a 6. Okay, it's on the 6th side. What does that mean? Your character wouldn't even question it. This is just a thing that happens. And they all freak the fuck out. Right now, Taylor's character, who was a falling star, has returned to the sky and is currently making sure the moon is facing the right way when the gates of hell are born up to the earth and stuff like that. It's bonkers. It's bonkers, but I figured out it was probably the most challenging thing I've done yet, which was like all of these very different angles, maybe a couple months into the game being like, how do I tie all this in together? And then coming up with this harebrained scheme of reopening the portals so that the jinn can get overwhelmed from the wish thing, and it just
I adore the coordinating the use of jinns to prevent the wishes. Like that is brilliant, and the notion of working extra planar magic to help thwart that plan, like that's some chef kiss.
I appreciate it. And it kind of makes sense. What does the average wizard wish to accomplish in the end? Generally, immortality. They want to live forever. But lichdom is sticky. Lichdom is sticky, and that's usually where it ends up. So what happens when you get a bunch of wizards all together and they secretly run everything? Well, they want control. And they want specifically not to be overthrown. So you gotta get a grip on wish, or else there will always be a chance.
I just realized that we should probably move on to our next topic.
Yes, please, by all means. I hope I answered the question.
I think we got there in a, I would say, roundabout way. We got it. But
so
the
I didn't
next
plan all of that. I didn't plan any of that. I just had the world, and then pulled from the world once I was given the characters.
And we've got a handful of viewer questions here as well, but we'll get to those. We'll get to those as soon as we can. The next thing I have up here on our list of topics is one of my personal favorites, and somebody who might still be in chat. I don't know if they're still here or not. Naming things.
Ooh.
There's somebody in chat whose name is Name. Hello, if you're here, we're talking about you.
Hello, Name.
Naming
Great
things.
Name.
This is like my whole shit. And like to the point that this is a true story. I was working at back when I was still working in tech. I was working at a company that made a new version of their core product. And as I was like watching the I was on the team that was building the prototype of it. And I was watching like the pitch, like the design, going through everything, and just based on how the whole thing looked, I yelled out a name that we should refer to the product as, and we stuck with that all the way. Like, that's just what we went with.
Let's go.
And when that story got back to one of the designers of the company, who was then tasked with redesigning like the core user experience of like the main website, they they specifically brought me into a room and explained the project and asked for me to name it.
Wow.
And I was really happy with the
cool.
result there too, because it was all about how do we redesign the quote unquote, I hate this term, is so overused, but in tech the term is the happy path, which is the expected user experience. Like, they land on your web page, they click the obvious thing, they do whatever. That's the happy path. They were redesigning the happy path, and the name that I gave them was Yellow Brick, which is you follow the yellow brick road, right? You just stay on the happy path. And so they ended up like naming the project Yellow Brick, and they made like shirts and shit that said like Yellow Brick on it for the team that was involved. So
that's cool.
I genuinely love naming things, and that example is virtually how I do all naming. What is it? What's 1 or 2 degrees away from that? Like what's a reference that's like 1 or 2 degrees away, and then derive a name from that. So it's the happy path. We want people to stay on the route that we designed to the Emerald City, which again, like Yellow Brick opens up the road to naming something else later. Emerald, like more Wizard of Oz references. And that's, whenever I'm like, what do I want to name this? The first thing that my brain does is like, let's just step back from the concept and just explore sort of like the circle of concepts around it that ideally are not too on the nose, right? Not too extremely direct. You want someone to think about it for a half second.
Like name him Salt, you know what I mean, or Brine, or something like that.
Just name. What are we naming Brine?
Brine?
Are we talking about naming barnacles right now? Salt and brine?
I will straight up name a guy like Brian or something like that, and have nothing to do with the ocean or anything like that. Just his name is Brian, and it puts this picture in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, I have 3 things. I have 3 things when it comes to naming, and I use the first 2, and if all else fails, I go to the third. The first thing is, what do I want the players to subconsciously be impressed upon about this person or this city or this mountain or or this magic system name by the name feel. The second thing I think of is mouthfeel. Is it fun to say? Because you're gonna have to say it a bunch. You better like it. You know what I mean? And I've got an example for that. The third one I do works especially for locations, and it's, what did they call the place 300 years ago versus what is it called now?
It's sort of an Istanbul, Constantinople situation.
Yes, kind of. For example, I had the starting city in my Terraform campaign. It's called Furinor.
Furinor.
But was a Furinor.
Furinor.
Yes.
That's a fun word.
And thank you. But I got to it because it was originally called First Anchor.
Ooh.
Because it was where the dwarves touched down. Very first city on this continent. First Anchor. It's a port city. Now it's called Furinor because it's been so long. It's been mashed so many times, you know, and now it's just called Furinor. And you can take something like First Anchor and just mash it, botch it, chop it, zip it, twist it until you get a fun mouthfeel. The other thing, especially when it comes to dragons, you've got to have a good dragon. And it's got to be complicated, in my opinion. It's got to be, you know, it's not necessarily like a title, like, you know, like Thunder's Clap or whatever. I've got one. Me and Critical Bard cooked this one up for my god dragons. Hilary Kialk Vothanor.
I'm gonna need that in a sentence. Can I get the country of origin?
I called upon Hilary Kialk Vothanor. I'll type it out too.
Dear God.
yeah, it's complex, but it's dragon god, so I think he's earned it.
Nothing if not extra. I mean, if it's a dragon god, it's got to be as extra as you can make it. I love what you said about naming something sort of like viscerally, instantly understandable. Like, what kind of vibe are we going with here?
Yeah.
And I think a couple of examples that I would pick from like my, I don't want to say a core world, but the world that I've run the most. Two of my favorite locations that are relatively close to each other and are very, very different vibes are Illidor and Wilhart. And Illidor,
good names.
Thank you. Illidor is a like military, it's a very wet, dank stonework, like military.
Sounds severe.
Encampment.
Sounds intense.
Yeah, it's oppressive. It's wet. Everything is made of stone. It's the closest you can get to just being in a drab, lifeless city whose sole purpose is just to like. So it's a strategic location. That's all it really is. Right now. And then Wilhart, by comparison, is a like very jovial place, despite its location being the northernmost city in the world, the northernmost town. But it's also just this massive. It's one massive log cabin. It is a huge complex. It's a town-sized, interconnected complex of log cabins because it's like in the unlivable north. And so instead of trying to live outside and have like, you know, igloos or whatever, they built giant log cabins, put like 8 hearths in every room, and called that good. And now a bunch of barbarians live there.
You had a lot of Lincoln Logs as a kid, didn't you?
Of course.
Same. It was that and Bionicles.
And name, yeah. So name just came up. This is a very, very great reference.
Hey, name.
Kiki and Booba, or Boba.
Well,
Kiki and I think it's Kiki and Booba are the. There was like an experiment where people were shown 2 shapes and they were told to name them. Name one of them Kiki and one of them like Booba or something like that.
Okay.
Almost always people named the spiky shape Kiki and the rounder shape Booba, which makes sense. But like, why? It makes sense, right? Why does it make?
Yeah.
It makes sense.
It makes
Psychology.
sense 'cause round.
Yeah, it makes sense because sharp and round. Yeah. I am not learned enough on the subject to be like, you know, here are the very specific reasons as to how the human mind and like the culture around us has made us associate words and sounds with different shapes and meanings, but it's so real. And
the English language is so botched. It's actually a Germanic language with Latin influence, but it's not actually a romantic language. It's what you get when Vikings try to scream Latin at the people they're invading. That's how we got English, more or less. I'm generalizing.
It's really good to scream English.
Man. Yeah, and so what do you want to impress upon the person? Like Boba, he sounds like a buddy. He doesn't sound super smart, but he sounds dependable that he's gonna give you good vibes.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Whereas Kiki, First of all, hi Kiki.
Hi,
you're
Kiki.
Fantastic. Kiki, it has energy. Kiki is someone who is active. You know what I mean?
I'm picturing
And
like a very driven monk. Like I'm getting such a vivid picture, like a very driven, focused person, like an action-oriented person who does not suffer fools.
Yeah. Oh man, Sky gifted so many subs.
Wait.
Thank you, Sky.
Sky with 10 gifted subs. Thank you so incredibly much. Holy shit. Also, hi. Also, I'm just going to go ahead and read out what the message itself says, which is wow, 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 thank you, which is my eternal sentiment. Thank you so much, Sky. Thank you.
Appreciate you. One of the good ones. Yeah, so what was I going to say? I had a good name in the pocket for an example. Oh, I will be as literal as I need to be.
Yes.
Like I named a dude Locke.
Is he a
He's a
locksmith?
kid. Nope. But he is very important to the plot in for certain things in the future. And so it's just that little bit of like, that dude might be important. That dude might be important.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Just to give that
Hello.
little bit of hook.
I really like names as giving an impression, like giving hints via name. One of the worlds that I run and love very dearly, I made a decision when I was originally building it that there's largely like two main spaces, and one is largely like the place that you want to be, and one is kind of a dreary, drab sort of alternate space. I have to be very generic because this may be used in the future, but
Okay.
one of the decisions I made really early on when I was designing all the characters, all the spaces, all the places, was that for the majority of like the main world where people live their normal life and the majority of what people would consider the functional world is, they all have ridiculous names. Like three words, each word having like 6 syllables, or just like hysterical names. Like way over the top. It's very like channeling Terry Pratchett, channeling like whatever silliness you want to reference, but like Beauregard Cornwallis, for example, is one of the characters that I love very dearly. Just absurd names. And then contrasting that, the other place, everybody has 1-syllable names. Very short, to the point. There's no joy even in their names. It's just and I chose a lot of words that were like sort of adjacent to sadness and depression. So like rain, or like mud, or like gum.
Hiccup.
That's 2 syllables. Too many. Can't have
you're
that.
right.
Get out of here. Failed world builders. Just get out. And so yeah, like from the drop, like after being immersed in a world where everyone has super over the top names and personalities, going to a place where everyone's just like sad and named whatever is convenient.
Ooh, Hitch.
Yep, there you go. It especially if the players themselves also have the silly names and have been only experiencing that one world for so long, and now they're in the other, and they're like, this is awkward. It drives home
Just
the
that
point.
little bit of alien and foreign.
Yeah.
And energy. Yeah.
Out of place.
Yeah.
And this is just it's another detail to emphasize how different all of this is, and how
If you're
opposite.
looking for a book series that really goes into like making naming like a magic system and stuff like that and making it important, check out Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. But do know it isn't finished yet, and it's gonna rip your heart out. It is a sad story. Full of bad things happening to good people. But the naming magic is mwah, if you're into naming magic. Some people hate naming magic.
I love naming magic. I love
It's a
naming.
vibe.
Naming is just what I will sit and just name stuff and not make a world. I will just come up with names for things.
So, on a last note for naming, about a year ago, the chat realized and my mods that almost maybe 50% of the time, if I'm caught on the fly and have to throw a name out, it will start with T. And it became this ongoing bit, and to the point where I'd be like, oh, this is Arnold. You mean Tarnold? That's Tarnold. And I'm like, no, it's now nothing's named T, if I can help it.
That is me with...
I've swung to the opposite side of the problem.
That's me with E. Like E, usually
Really?
ER.
Really, Endeavorance.
Fuck! Shit!
It's on the merch. Oh,
I
man,
genuinely
heard him.
was not. I didn't even think. You have broken me.
If it helps, it starts with T. Technically, the Endeavorance.
It doesn't start with a T. And Endeavorance is just it's again a name that I just randomly came up with. Like it doesn't.
I love it.
There's no. I was laying in bed one day and I was like, I need a new account name. Endeavorance.
It's good. I when I heard it, I went solid name, and I actually really liked it. And it left a lasting impression. Fun fact: long before I met you, this was 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, I had an evil corporation called the Endeavor. And they were very what was the Pirates of the Caribbean bad guys?
East India Trading Company.
Yeah, they were the East India Trading Company if they had also the schools and the churches and the government in their pocket, and just slowly took over an entire continent, and then eventually collapsed. And they were called the Endeavor.
I mean, it's very similar to my general goals. So.
Oh. Well, guys, it's been fun, but I'm kind of tired of hanging out with Jeff Bezos here, so I'm gonna
just call me Jeffrey.
Oh, my name's Jeff. My real name's Jeff. It hurts.
Name with an opinion on their name.
Name an opinion on their name.
Name wants to have an opinion on their name.
Good pun.
I would say
Name's
very
Bond.
very good.
Solid pun.
Let's move on from naming.
Okay.
I think because the last song in my intro playlist started playing, which tells me that we should probably start moving forward. It's so useful. So I use the same playlist every time I stream, and that means that when I hear this song that's currently playing on my stream, it gives me like a couple minutes warning of we're gonna need to change up the music and also maybe change up the topic.
That's
funny. The next thing I have on here, and we've only got a couple more things, and then we'll do some viewer questions, and then we'll see where we're at. Crafting unique destinations, and specifically making cities feel unique. Now, I want to preface this by saying, this is a genuinely difficult challenge, I think, because as much as I love to come up with cities, naming them, just come up with, what's the hook for this city, right? We already talked a lot ad nauseum about hooks. But when you're portraying a city and you have somebody actually go, when you have a party actually go to a city, to make it more than just it's massive and sprawling, and it has districts, and it's big, it's real big. You look out and it's a lot. It's a big city. That doesn't.
I've done that.
Yeah,
I've done that exactly. And I also and you see chimney smoke from various chimneys, and there's a lot of smoke because there's a lot of buildings.
Yeah, and it's genuinely difficult to be how do I make it clear that it dwarfs them, it makes them feel small, and it's again, as always, for the trillionth time. I don't know if I've said this yet today. I can't keep track of when I do say this, but show, don't tell. Right, it's always better to show and not tell. If you tell them city big, they're like, okay, every city big.
The couple of things right out the gate, I think I might have touched on this at the beginning, is impact and initial impression. To have to set a scene, whether it's a cliffside with a lighthouse or something like that, to give that kind of vibe, or if it's very dour and there's a lot of soldiers and a lot of people around. First thing to start off with is with those. That's where you tell, and what you show. Generally, what I do is how the people are faring under the current power dynamic. Is the church in control? Is the gentry in control? Is the criminal underbelly in control? And therefore, how do the other ones respond to that which is in control? How do the people then respond to the pressures of them? And most importantly, how do the slums, those factor in? I had a really big city named Cairn, and it was just like the biggest city. And I was like, well, I don't have a lot of really interesting stuff visually, so I put a big ass hole in it. Just a
I'm sorry. What did you put in it?
A hole.
You put a hole in it.
I put a hole in it.
How fleshy was the hole?
It had flesh in it.
Okay. Hole
right.
mentioned.
All right. Is there a bingo board I'm not aware of?
I guess you probably were not mentioning putting a big hole in a city on this stream in particular.
Listen,
is
I've just been
dangerous territory
this whole time. I'm just chucking and jiving with what's being presented.
The first 3 World Building Wednesdays, we were building a world together, and giant fleshy hole in the middle of the city was a significant part of that effort. So you'll see the chat is currently going buck wild for hole.
They are. Wow. Band-Aid bite. Crab hole. So I put this monstrous, just like a hole puncher, you know what I mean? Just like straight cliff down.
Mm-hmm.
And I pulled the inspiration from, by the way, chat, always feel free to pull inspiration. Don't rip it off entirely. And if you're going to, at least shout out where you got the inspiration from.
Yoink it.
You know, this is just D&D. But I pulled from the Powder Mage series, which is phenomenal. Go read it. The second trilogy is even better, but it was like talking like mile wide, hundreds of feet deep, and then just levels and levels and levels of buildings that are ramshackle. And then I put cultists in it that would hide amongst the people, and so the people liked the cult. The people inside the hole were very down to clown with the cult, and so they would protect them. They would hide them. It's near impossible to send a guard down to arrest somebody down there because no one likes the guards down there. They're going to actively help the people that they are bound to. And how does that impact the party? In what ways? And this is putting plot aside. This is just world building. What impact can you present to the party, and what power dynamics and what struggles is the city going through? Because that is going to flavor a city more than anything else. You can have magical weir lights on every corner. They're gonna forget about it. They're gonna forget about, oh, this road is paved with silver. What's going on there? No. They care about the people. The people make the city, and how they interact with the city around them. That will give it so much more spice.
I really like the notion of bringing the attention towards the people, the dynamics between the people, and the differences between the people in different locations in the city, as opposed to making the city be about its primary export, right? Or its, its architectural design, which can absolutely lend to making the flavor of that city so much stronger. And when 100% has a place in the world building and has a place in the set dressing and everything, but is not the definition of the city. And I say that because I've learned a lot from just mistakes, right? Like making mistakes about how I do all of this. And one of the things that I did for a long time was, all right, each city has a hook, each city has its thing. I need to lean into that thing for the city. And so, okay, this city is known
lean
for...
Lean into the hole, buddy.
Lean into the hole. Maybe it's like this city is known for its like drug trade or something.
Sure.
Now, that's notable, but you can... Making it all about the drug isn't going to be as compelling as making it about the second and third degree effects of that drug being so prevalent in that city.
Yep.
who has been
money
made
going
rich,
around that
who
isn't
has
getting
been
taxed.
destroyed. Yeah, what's the political are the politics in on it, against it? Who's being thrown under the bus? Who's in power? Who's really in power?
Yes.
All of that is based on the hook of this city is riled by this specific drug trade, maybe because of their proximity to some sort of a source.
Yeah.
But
Also,
I originally, when I would go through and do something like that, I would lean so much harder on the product or the output, not the stories it can generate.
history.
Yeah.
History can be huge. Doesn't have to be, but it can be. In my Windfall campaign, Thursday campaign, which is a Western, it's like dark fantasy Western. I mentioned earlier that the capital city was the linking point between the highlands and the lowlands of this desert to farmland region. And so I had the Baron, you know, it wasn't big enough. He wasn't big enough to call himself a king. This is after the fall of the Endeavor.
I didn't fall.
I'll trip you. I'll go to Gen Con, trip you, film it. Sorry. And so the Baron had just come into power, and his predecessors had overexpanded. And suddenly there's an economic crisis where he's having to really turn his city into the city of industry. Excuse me, to keep everything going. But people don't like that because now there's soot everywhere, and the industry district has smoke going into the slums, and the slums are all sticky now, and people aren't happy. But the king means well. The Baron wants to help his people, but he feels trapped. He feels like, well, if I fix this, we're going to go into an economic crisis. I don't know what to do. And then the party is like, well, I had outlaw, so of course he was like socialism, and I let the because I basically is the guy leading, the guy in power, is he a good guy or is he a bad guy, or is he neutral? You know what I mean? Find out his motives, and in this case, he was a good guy, and his family line was all the way back to the original Leonin tribes that lived in these plains that they eventually came to power and stuff like that. So he's got every right to be there, and he's got all of the right moral standing, but everyone hates him because sticky. but his hands are tied, and so he's at a loss. And then the party can come in and influence him to try new things, and the party will get so into that if they're into like politics and stuff like that, because they want to affect this story. They want to be the heroes. They want to be the protagonists. Or in the opposite side of things, evil ruler. You know, maybe he's a child, you know, and his father just was mysteriously died, and so his mom is kind of puppeting the child and speaking on his behalf, and has some nefarious things going on. All of that will drastically influence a city.
Yeah, for sure. the placement of political figures in a city, and the people who are in power, and how they are viewed, and how one of the things you mentioned of the Baron trying to fix things, having good intentions, but kind of is stuck. His intentions could be good. He very much could be trying his bestest, and the people could hate him and be at the verge of revolution.
Yeah.
And that, it's a lot harder to just be on the side of the people doing a revolution when it's like, well,
yeah.
Are you sure about that? Because the guy who's currently in power is pretty chill, and devil you know, devil you don't, but he's not even a devil. And
yeah, exactly. And so there's this conundrum.
Yeah.
And there's suddenly tension, and there's conflict, and there's gray areas. And then the party is like, well, what are our values? You know, what do we want out of this situation? And there's so much to delve into there. You know, there's so much you can do with that, and there's so much the players can do with that. And that's the important thing.
I've got another completely different direction of how to make cities kind of feel distinct.
Okay.
And specifically, this is a show don't tell. This is a how do I set the stage as my players enter a city, especially with how do I avoid the it big city is city but big. And this also is yoinking. I'm just gonna go ahead and steal from something. Skyrim. I'm gonna steal from Skyrim.
We love Skyrim.
And it's not like Skyrim came up with this or anything, but I think it's a great example of this. Having an in media res situation that does not involve the players happening as they enter the city.
Oh yeah.
So a halfway done significant thing that's very that place. So, for example, in Skyrim, you enter Solitude for the first time. It's the capital of one of the two factions who's warring, and they are taking things very seriously. And they are accusing a guard of like aiding and abetting the enemy. And so the first thing that happens is you walk in the front gate, and right there is a guy actively being executed. And there's a crowd, and the crowd is like already arguing about whether or not this guy is innocent. And you just walked through the door.
Yeah.
You haven't even had a chance to put down your backpack. And the citizens, there's like a kid being told to go inside because they don't want to see their uncle getting executed. We've already established that this person has family ties in the town. There's so much that happens in like a minute, 1 minute of script that you also could walk right past and ignore. But it's happening whether or not you care about it.
Yeah, but
it tells you
for
exactly
you.
what is this city about.
Tells you about the dynamic going on, all sorts of stuff like that.
You go to Riften and they're all like, hey, watch your ass. And also there's thieves everywhere. Like, don't like, there's like,
you go to the Dwarven city and someone just gets stabbed and killed.
Yep.
And they've got a weird ring, and stuff like that. And it's just right out the gate. There's weird stuff for you.
Every town, you walk in and there's something to hook you.
I have a thing that I love doing, and I've actually overplayed it a little bit in my games, but I love the idea of people, they're travel weary, they're trying to put their horses up, they just want food, they're all dusty, and there's a guy at the gate who looks at them and prestidigitates them clean and goes, "That'll be 3 copper, please." Well, it's just 3 copper, man. God, you're welcome. First of all, and just hassle them. And just
so the fantasy equivalent of the
loudly.
person who's like washing your windshield is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically. But you're just clean now because all I've got is this cantrip, and I'm making it work for me.
Hey man, it works. I had a character who was very dirty, and my party, somebody else in the party would constantly prestidigitate all the dirt, all the smell off of me.
Yep. Oh man. This is a quick tangent.
Please.
But I had a really funny idea that the party did not think was very funny. And it just flopped entirely. And they did something I wouldn't have predicted with, I believe it's prestidigitation. And that was Sauce Boss. There was a guy, and his name was Sauce Boss, and he had 2 immovable rods. And if he was in danger, he just go up into the sky, and he would come down and be like, I'm selling hot sauce, and it's my super secret recipe. And Offbeat was like, let me taste that. Oh, that's good. Now I have your flavor. Now I've got the flavor of the sauce, and it's in this water, and you're ruined. And I was just like, Sauce Boss. Sauce Boss. And they kind of robbed him as well.
Oh no.
Yeah. Also, magic items. Peruse magic items. There are so many fun and weird magic items that you can build a city off of. Like, or an evil faction or something like that, like my iron flasks. I had the party on a train ride, and someone stepped up in front of the train and turned on an immovable rod, and that train went off the rails. That train, like the party was talking, they were having this in-depth RP, and then boom, the immovable rod punches its way into the room, and they're like, huh? And everyone gets tumbled. Magic items, they're everywhere in games and should be used by more than just the party.
And they have such a good, the very, very big ones that have effects that like sort of emanate or radiate from them, where it's like No one goes to that house anymore because anybody who goes there like loses their voice, and no one knows why. And it's because there's like some trinket that's like buried in a locket that got activated that like somebody meant to keep buried, but now it's doing the thing it does, which is like silencing everything around it slowly.
And you don't have to tell the party what's up. You just have to tell them about some weird effect, and they suddenly there's a box, and they want to open the box, and they got to know what's in the box. You know
what is in the box. Anyway, with all of that said, we are a little ways into this here television internet program. We're gonna take a quick break, about five-ish minutes, and when we get back, we'll jump into some viewer questions. So if you have not yet submitted a question, I will post that link one more time. There's that. I just posted it in chat. You can submit some questions. We've got them all. They are being collected in, and we will go through and answer what we can. We've got a good handful in here, but I encourage you to continue submitting questions, and we will pick what we are able to get to. So we're gonna go on a quick break. We'll see y'all very, very soon. Don't go anywhere. If you touch that dial, I will be so sad.
I'll hide you in my beard. No one will ever find you.
Careful, people might want to be hidden in your beard. That's like a thing.
This backfired horribly.
Yeah, that backfired real bad. All right.
You'll never get to touch my beard.
If you touch that dial, you're not touching this beard. All right.
I can't tell you how many times someone has come up and just started touching my beard without like talking to me first. And I'm just like,
that's not okay. That is
not.
Very not okay.
It happens more times than you would think.
Yeah, see, my chat is saying that it sounds cozy to be in your beard.
It's soft.
So it does look very soft, and your stash is wonderful. All right, we're going to be right back. 5 minutes. See y'all very soon.
And that's why I don't think gravity's real.
Interesting, because like I once fell and I bonked my head.
Because once I
See, here's my argument for gravity is that this one time, I was like, and so that's my
I love
argument.
the commitment to the bit.
Oh, always. And
I did not go into this thinking, I bet I can make him pratfall.
I am nothing if not committed to the bit. So, world building.
World building. Gravity.
Gravity.
Usually the move when you build a city because rock needs to go on top of rock.
It's so hard. I am a zero gravity stonemason, and let me tell you, my life is difficult.
Shit's hard.
Oh my god, I would love to. That'd be a fun project. A zero gravity city.
The combat alone is a no-go for me.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So we are going to go through some of the submitted questions. Thank you all so much for those who submitted questions. And if you didn't submit a question, you're dead to me. You're not. I love you dearly.
Shit, I should have submitted a question. How heavy is the crowbar? I got to know.
We're going to start with actually a question that Trips sent in from last time. So this question comes from Trips with they, them pronouns. The question is, what is the weirdest thing that one of your players ever tried to adopt or seduce?
Adopt. We haven't really done any seducing. Because everything I make is terrifying.
Well, hold on.
I don't make hot big bads. I make fucked up big bads.
Challenge accepted. If it's a big undulating pile of flesh and teeth, there's no reason I can't find beauty in it.
I understand that if I can fuck it, then it can be fucked. But low-hanging fruit, my guy. Previous thing they ever tried to adopt. I feel like I've got a better one in the but I don't remember. Off the top of my head, party was going through this like ravine, and it used to have access to the ocean, and so there were a lot of these like salt deposits all over the place, and goats, because goats crave the mineral to
salt and goats. Got it.
Yeah, salt and goats. And so they're talking and they're hanging out and they're doing a thing, and one of the goats just suddenly disappears, as if sucked up. And they were like, I'm sorry. And I was like, yep. And I was like one player noticed it and he didn't like immediately say something, and then another goat gone. Come to find out, there's this invisible creature that runs on salt, that really just enjoys salt and is happy to eat the occasional goat as well. And I pointedly was like, you can't figure out what this thing looks like, you can't figure out what this thing feels like. And it was actually they actually ended up making it like a steed.
Okay.
And so they're on the steed, and once they're on, they also are invisible. So they were like, this is great, this is the best steed we could have had. It can also carry all of us, it's massive.
Sure.
This is wonderful. And the first player, Ben, who noticed it was the only one that was like, I don't know about this one, guys. I don't know about this one. And then he figured out that there's 5 footsteps to its gate. Not 4-legged, 5-legged.
If I'm supposed to know what that means, I don't know what that means.
Nope. It was just constantly like, this is weird, this is off-putting, this isn't right. And it was furry. And when they eventually touched it, it had thick like Wookiee fur. And finally, someone cast something so they're able to see it, and it had 5 legs, was kind of built like a woolly mammoth, had a trunk, and it had an eye on every side, and then the bottom half of it was just this hanging, drooping mouth full of teeth and like stuff like that. And they were like, "We gotta go, and they quickly abandoned.
It's just fluffy.
that.
Wow. Imagine being so hype about your new fancy steed, and then you find out that it's just got a little bit of a gaping mouth on its entire bottom half, and you're like, nah, I'm over this one.
Yeah, it was, well, Ben, the party was very cautious, as they should be, because I tend to, I'm gonna say something that I don't like.
Okay.
And that is, I am known as the pet killer in games.
Why would
And
you do this to me? Why would
I
you?
don't mean to. Madaloon!
Maddie!
Good
Hello!
friend, good bean.
And
Everyone go
Gina.
follow Madaloon. Best soup. I don't do this intentionally, but let me tell you how it started.
Okay.
Just to be real quick on the
Okay.
topic of
How you
pets,
got
if
into
I
the
may.
habit of just killing everyone's pets and joy
Not
and
all
fun,
of them, but I
happiness, etc.
The party is a bit plays it on the safe side these days. They made me swear not to kill horses when we were starting Windfall, the Western. They were like, "You're not allowed to kill the horses.
Of course.
You're not allowed. It's my horse." And I was like, "Okay, immortal horses."
Sounds like rebellion propaganda to me.
And so it was poor Luna's first campaign with us. It's a frozen tundra campaign. It's called Kjol. And I was
Dingus.
like, okay, they've got Liamin's tiny hut. They're gonna be fine. So I wanted them. I had these 2 giants sneak up on them. They were camped under a cliff that kind of had an overhang. And so I was like, okay, they're in the hut. I want to pose an interesting dilemma where they are buried. And I had them shoulder check the mountain onto them. And so they're in the tiny hut and they're buried. What do you do? That was kind of the intention. Okay, that's all I wanted. I wanted to have a cool little like, oh no, but we're safe, but what do we do? So Luna introduced her character as, I have these sled dogs. I have 10 or 12 dogs that we mush, and they don't say mush, but they had the sled and it would move along, and that's how they got along throughout the realm, is in the snowy regions. And so I've dropped the mountain on them, and Luna just goes, "How many creatures can be in Liamin's tiny hut?" And I went, Oh. Turns out there's not enough. Not enough people.
We're gonna need a bigger hut. If the hut wasn't so tiny.
So I, and this is a little vulgar, chat. This is a little out there. And so I was like, all right, well, you get to choose which dogs you had in the hut, and which dogs you lose. And once she did that, I leaned into it. I was like, all right, so you see these giants
Dingus.
fishing around in the rubble, just finding the dead dogs and eating them. Like little chicken nuggies. It was all downhill from there.
That's rough, buddy.
And it's just all downhill from there.
I feel like
man.
if I got anywhere near pulling something like that, my party would choose the TPK.
Oh,
They would choose
decided
to
all
die.
Giants must die. They went on the attack.
Fair.
They hunted these giants back to their people and was like, all right, we've got them marked on the map. And that was like episode 3 of this campaign. 2 years later, we finished this campaign, and Offie was like, all right, you see this spot in the map? It's gonna be a crater. And they went back and killed everybody.
Completing the campaign, saving the world, killing the big bad is all secondary to just gaining experience to become level 20 so that we can go smite these people. That we can cease their existence.
Said it best. It was like, if XP, advancing your characters by killing things, was a thing, it wouldn't the whole world would fall apart. You want to be in the wizard college? All right, let's go kill some goblins. It's a field trip. Yeah, that's how you get better. You want magic? We gotta go kill stuff. You know what I mean?
You gotta go kill stuff specifically over and over and over and over.
Yeah, I don't do none of that. I do,
As
I
a
do
respawn.
story point checkpoints.
Oh god, I don't fuck with XP. I just
Yeah, I also do a weird thing where I want the party to get to level 20 by the end of the story, but I don't want to give out levels every 5 minutes. So I will, first of all, never start your party off at level 1. In my humble opinion, terrible idea. They're weak. They can die easily. It's very easy to accidentally kill them, and you can't have a ton of fun easily with their kits. Start them off at level 3 to 6, especially if you're gonna go for like a year or two. Anyway, I digress. I will go for like a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then give them 3 levels. And just do a big chunk and then wait longer and then big chunk. Also, I will give them the level up before the big fight, before the dungeon crawl.
yeah.
Because then they get to go into the dungeon crawl with their new bits.
There's actually a really
"All right, you killed the big bad. Here's a level up." No. Get that level up and go kill the big bad with your new fun toys.
I really like in the game system Quest. They don't have levels. They just have gaining more abilities, and you are guaranteed, like in the rules as written, you get a new ability after each session as a reward for having fun with your friends. that is literally rules as written, and
That's
is
cute.
Yeah. So there's that, and then you get like mana and whatnot at the end of each session. So, but yeah, very fun system. But yeah, it's an interesting sort of like twist on like having to continuously dole out levels or whatever.
Yeah.
Real quick on the question of what is the weirdest thing that somebody has tried to adopt or seduce in one of my
Sorry,
games.
yeah.
No, it's fine. I can think of a few examples, but I'm just gonna like do a little bit of a twist on it, which is like the most the one of my favorite running like gag attempts at seducing somebody, which was, and I've mentioned this campaign before, but I had a this woman who was just like the librarian slash chef slash leader of the like leader of the guard. She basically was just like the character that does like everything at the sort of like home base of the good faction that the player characters were aligned with. And so it was like, you know, the place that they always go to in between big campaign arcs. And this woman was crushing hard on the barbarian in the group. She was just like really into him, and he was completely oblivious to all of her advances. Absolutely had no idea that anything was going on there. But you know, again, like she's the one that's making the food, and then you go to the library. She's the librarian. And it's just like that kind of character.
Okay.
But she was all about him. The bard, of course, was trying to get with her the entire game. The entire campaign. After every leg, we come back to the base. She's crushing on the barbarian, who is completely oblivious, just eating his turkey leg, just like, this is a delicious turkey leg. And she'd be like, yeah, I made it just for you. I knew it was your favorite. And he was like, I love turkey legs, and just keeps on eating it.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. I hope you had a nice day so far. Anyway.
And then the bard would come along, and she hated him. She fucking hated this guy. And he would come in, and he would just like, it didn't matter what he rolled. He would come in and roll whatever the fuck. There was not a check he could possibly pass that would have worked. And it didn't matter. He just needed to keep trying because there was a person who was obviously like lusting after someone else. And he was like, I need this. Never
On
happened.
that topic of very persuasive bards, real quick, I had a offbeat in my Windfall campaign, my Western one. He plays a bard that can't roll anything under a 20 for persuasion or deception or intimidation.
So just like,
From the jump of the campaign.
dear God.
Yeah.
Like they crafted the character that way, or that's just a rule they came up with?
No, that they crafted the character that way. Basically, he couldn't roll anything under a 10 and then had so many pluses that got him up to a minimum 20 every time.
Dear Lord.
And that's fine. This is what I did. I had to figure out the line of some things a person can't be convinced to do. This person cannot be convinced to shoot his friend.
Yeah.
Because it's his buddy. You know what I mean? For example, and stuff like that. And then I would narratively be like, the party notices that, like, instead of having to make him roll every single time, the party notices once again that the bard really just has this silver tongue and the effect on everyone around him. And now that you're kind of used to him, you start noticing it as well. And then my BBEG was also a level 20 bard. And I was like, you notice the same silver tongue effect on this corrupt politician who bought up all the diamonds and now has invented a monopoly on revivification. And he's a whispers bard. You know, just was, they were like, you know, it was one of the few times the part was like, fear the person with the silver tongue who is just as dangerous as our bard, you know.
Mechanics as story, very good, very good. Thank you so much, Trips, for your question. The next question we have here is actually a resubmitted question from last time, but I do want to. I've already answered this from last time. I do want to pose this to you as well. This comes from Cotton, pronounced she and they. Says, what was your biggest world building project, and your biggest that you didn't use?
My biggest building project is definitely Terraform. The campaign has been going on for 4 years. We'll get a party to level 20 and then jump forward a couple hundred, like 100 years or however many years, and then new characters, same players, on the same world, in the same campaign. I've got the entire continent built. Windfall is happening on a different continent. Terraform is this one. It's on the continent of Whistling. The first 2 years was on an island called the Sunton Isles, and then we finished that campaign, and I was like, all right, here's the entire continent, and there's no king because Tyrant Lord Barst was doing him a genocide, and so all of the noble houses got together and iced him. Now we have the dynamic between church and gentry, you know, and in this city the church is more in control, and in this city the gentry is more in control, and it's a very, very massive project. And I've got the next we've moved forward. I've got the next 4 years kind of figured out for it. Massive undertaking, and sometimes I regret it. Sometimes I'm like, this was too big. We need to, for future projects, boil it down a bit. Because the scope is monstrous, and half the stuff, and most of the stuff we're never going to get to.
Are you telling me that you, comma, a creative person who gets into storytelling, comma, it bit off more than they can chew? Never heard of that before.
Especially when you've got all of these things, but then the party changes everything. You're going through this entire story through their lens. And that means a lot. That's incredibly important. And that's one weird thing about the media that is the medium, I think, that is D&D, is you can't, well, you can, but generally you can't be like, now this cutscene over here of the big bad being scary all by himself that the party's not there for. Everything the party sees, they can more or less interact with or influence.
Okay, Todd Howard.
Everything is, when you see everything that you present to them can be influenced and changed, potentially.
Yeah.
Broad strokes here, and the only lens is through the party. So introducing the world, introducing the plot, and introducing the schemes has to be done through the party's POV, which actually is kind of fucking bonkers sometimes. When you want to talk about, you know, the astral realm and you know, gods and stuff like that.
I will not infrequently do a we see, like essentially like taking the camera and pointing it to a different thing, which absolutely breaks any notion of immersion. but is I find to be a very helpful storytelling tool to get some good creative juices flowing.
And Abria does that as well.
Yeah. I think
it's totally valid.
If Abria
totally
does it, I'm allowed to do it. Because
100%.
Abria is
Amazing.
Abria is the prototype.
Absolutely god tier. Absolutely god tier.
She's
Dungeon
incredible.
Master.
She's
Game Master.
absolutely incredible. Thank you, Cotton, so much for your question. Actually, no, second half. What's the biggest project you've had to scrap?
That is what we will be talking about later, which I can hope unscrap.
Yes, we'll definitely have time to do that, and won't have to do that next time.
Shall I give a teaser?
Yes.
Okay. There's a hollow volcano, and inside it is a society of dragon rider, artificer, necromancers, and they're having troubles because there's no war.
There's no war here. What the fuck am I supposed to do?
It's actually causing problems.
So you've built Fantasy America.
You take it back. You take it back right now. But yeah, think Mandalorian, Dragon Rider, Necromancers, and that's kind of the pitch for this one. It'll be the campaign, hopefully after Windfall. If I can.
I'm sorry that I called your cool volcano people Fantasy America. But I can make it up to you because we have a very great question. And this question comes from none other than last week's World Building Wednesday guest, Lemon.
Oh, Lemon.
So thank you, Lemon, who also very unfortunately informed me that she would not be able to be here live, but would be enjoying the VOD. So VOD Lemon, this one's for you.
Hello.
Pronouns she, her, I should make it clear. Question. Do you have a preference between expansive world building versus pocket world building? Which comes with so much, like, I don't know.
Pocket world building, especially. Expansive makes sense.
So the additional context provided says, i.e., expansive would be in the vein of Exandria, one world ever expanding on itself, versus a pocket world would be like each season of Adventure Zone, set in its own unique world that isn't necessarily vast beyond what the players need to explore for the story.
Okay. So I do both.
Yeah. And the question here being like, preference?
So in Tuesday and Saturday, I've got this ever-expanding world, which is Terraform, and then Void Scourge is actually on a boat riding the astral current from place to place, looking for stuff. Those are ever-expanding worlds. And then Thursdays has always been like, here is the only inhabited region on this ice planet.
Yeah.
Also, the oceans are boiling. Don't go south. And then this new one, it's like, okay, the entire continent collapsed economic wise. Now we've got this barren, small-ish map, a big city with a bunch of out cities and small villages and stuff like that. Western, go. And then the next one, Dragon Riders. Which I don't think my people knew about yet. So that's a bit of a long shot teaser.
Spoilies.
Exclusive.
We got the exclusive scoop here, y'all.
We got the exclusive scoop. If you know anything about Wraithstone from the Lies of Loch Lamora.
Those are words. Certainly.
Yeah, that's just my additional little hint. I don't know if I have a preference. I think I'll take expansive because I am also a discovery writer, discovery creator, and improv is my strong suit. Whereas planning is important, but usually I'm coming into it with one sheet of notes and a sheet of names and roster of previous NPCs that are important with their stuff. So I would say expansive because there's more freedom. You can just keep introducing new stuff as long as it ties in.
I agree that expansive is appealing for that reason. I feel as though if you put a gun to my head, this is a very likely situation. If you put a gun to my head and said, "Tell me your preference in what type of world building you like to do," which happens all the time. I think I would say a pocket world. And
Okay.
there is very different. If I'm building a world, I like building pockets. If I am running a long form campaign, I want there to be a significant world. But in terms of just abstract world building settings, coming up with ideas, I love just being able to say, all right, I don't care outside of these bounds. I don't care about the gods here. I don't care about the cosmos. The world that I'm building is, I used this example before, like one giant tree and all of the creatures that inhabit it. And everything outside that does not matter because the only thing we care about is this tree. And that's the world that I'm building. And like, when you confine yourself, you can make a much more vibrant, singular entity. And like, you'll probably end up kind of fracturing out a little bit from there. I keep saying fracturing, just sort of like just tendrils out from there.
Yeah.
But I love just taking a singular concept and seeing what you can make from it. A world that is entirely within a fishbowl, for example. And from the perspective of the denizens of this world, it is a world-sized thing,
And every now
but they
and
don't
then Xanathar's
realize.
eye just
Yeah, they don't know. Like, their god is some big face that appears in the sky every once in a while.
and then manna from heaven.
Yeah. It's just like it's a literal.
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah. Take a given closed system, but imagine it as a world. And I just, it's a fun thought experiment, and it is what I will reach for if I want to just. Is a little, I don't know if this is weird or not, but if I want to like relax by world building, like if I want to just like be creative and not care, it's so much easier to not worry about answering those
Definitely
questions.
easier. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much I've got figured out of all these other countries on the continent for Terraform that we have not even touched on yet. That we have not even gotten to at all.
Yeah. Thank you, Lemon.
Thank you, Lemon.
Thank you, Lemon. Keeping on.
Limes are better. What?
I agree, actually. But lemon is better. Lemon, the proper noun.
Entity.
Yes, the entity.
The entity, superior.
Congratulations, Lemon. You are an entity. This next question comes from Potato, pronounced she, her. Do you use a computer program or write paper notes to keep all the notes together? And for me, I will go ahead and answer this real quick. Obsidian. And end of answer. I used Obsidian. Feth.
So I tried to use Obsidian. I meant well, but I'm a pen and paper boyo. I got books. Also, I'm a journal snob. Look at this boy. This is the Terraform journal.
Amazing.
And in the front is all of the NPC. Okay, it's just scribbles. But in the front is all of like very important NPCs and stuff like that, and all the sorts of notes there. And I love it.
Look, I would
can take
not.
it with me.
You're not going to catch me. I have a stack of journals over there.
This is the
You're not going to
Windfall
catch me
journal.
being anything but happy about more journals.
And this is my Void Scourge journal. and then I've got my Crazy Wall, which kind of is Obsidian-esque, but I don't know. I am a writer, not a typer, when it comes to, which isn't even true because I text like crazy, but I don't know. I can't not do paper and pen. There's something about it that just feels right. And then I've got my combat paper notebook on the side.
That is absolutely lovely. And I will keep like a pad. Let me show you how, hopefully I can make my point here. One moment.
Okay. Oh, look at that rug.
It's a very good rug. Very, very good rug.
That's a fantastic rug.
Right?
What you
We got it. My stream chat picked it out. We did a whole
That's so cool.
We did a whole tournament of rug options, and that's what we landed on.
That's awesome.
So thanks, chat. So, okay, first of all, here's my I have not chosen a use for it yet. But this is my journal that I keep wanting to use for something. It's even got like
you should use it for your tree world pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, more specifically, if you want to know what kind of nerd I am, I recently went on Amazon and bought a bunch of legal pads, and I will just keep a legal pad just in arm's reach at all times in case I need to write something down.
I need graph paper. I don't know why everything is graph paper. It's got to be graph paper.
Well,
because my brain likes it. my brain will remember things better if it's on graph paper.
At shop.endeavorance.camp or merchfrom.dev, you can get yourself spiral notebooks with fun stuff on the covers and it's all graph paper. You can't see because of the light, but I promise it's not blank paper, it's graph paper. So there's just a quick
I'm gonna choose
plug.
to believe you.
Yeah. And I absolutely have set up the new journal that we designed on stream and didn't not do that. Don't check me on that. Anyway, I think that handwriting notes is honestly admirable, and it's a thing that I tried originally when I was DMing, and the main limiting factor was, ow, I'm writing a lot and my hand hurts. And like ultimately it just comes down to throughput, and with Obsidian I'm able to just go so freaking fast with getting thought
for me,
out.
it's slow. It's
and
slow.
Yeah. So for anybody who's interested in learning more about Obsidian, I am actively working on making my first of several Obsidian tutorials. So
nice.
That'll be a thing, and I can promise that it'll be an entertaining software tutorial and not a standard software tutorial.
I probably need to take that tutorial if I'm being honest, because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
What I do is I've got 2 pages in my journal. I always write out NPC names that I think will be prevalent and their alliances, and then I will do story beats, potential story beats, and then I will on the right side is my active in session paper, and I'll write starting point, and then as we go I will fill in that paper with important things that I'll need to remember in the session, and then at the bottom of that is after the session I write out things for the next session.
I think when I started I tried to like take like a binder or whatever and just hand write essentially a wiki on paper, which is a bad idea. A very, very bad idea.
I lean heavily on my improv.
Yeah,
and a lot of the stuff I just keep in my head. Which is lazy.
That's the thing is I do the exact same, and I don't know why I push myself so hard to write so much, because I then don't reference it. I write a ton.
They can't see your notes.
Yeah, I write way too much and then ignore it and improv the entire session.
Oh no!
And like again, like sometimes it's like, okay, well I can lean on this. I've pre-written this. Cool, fine, great. I have ad-libbed. Maybe it's probably like a 90-10 split of ad-libbed versus actual planning. But
sure. And then as you get closer to the ending, planning becomes more prevalent.
Yeah. Thank you, Potato, for your question and giving us the excuse to show off various notebooks.
Also, good job being a potato.
Good job being a potato.
Scrumptious.
Next question here is from Heston, pronouns he, they. Says, how do you stay motivated as DM? Additional context says, I've DM'd D&D, Call of Cthulhu, and a couple of others for a few years now. However, I go through extensive periods from time to time of just not wanting to even look at the game I'm working on or running. It becomes an issue for my posse of nerds, as the only other DM tends to get on the burnout bandwagon at the same time as me. So how do you stay motivated and avoid burnout as DM?
You have got to love storytelling. I love storytelling. It is my purpose on this green earth, is entertainment, is telling stories, and I am fueled by my party having fun and telling me I did a good job and stuff like that. It is my crack. The watching their eyes light up when I do a funny bit, watching them get genuinely freaked out when I do a horror element. I literally thrive on it. I feed on it. And when I'm burnt out, if I get burnt out, sometimes I take breaks, and that's okay. There have been plenty of times where we're about to start, and I'm like, guys, I could, beat my head against it and make it happen. And frankly, it'll be an alright episode. But I need a brain break. I need the brain sauce could use breather, and that is valid. Your mental health, your mental well-being, and your physical well-being are so much more important than a game. And if your players don't understand that, they're part of the problem.
Yes.
And your players' mental well-being and your players' physical well-being is more important than a show, more important than a game, more important than a stream. Period.
Yeah.
And so feel free to take that break. Or if you feel like you're up to it, push through and just do it anyway. Sometimes that's also viable. If you feel like I could do it, but I'm kind of feeling a little weird. It's possible that once you're like 10 minutes in, you feel great.
Yeah.
You feel fine.
Yeah.
And that's okay too.
The number of times that even just like in home games, like games that it's not like I'm not adhering to a scheduled audience, right? I don't have to make that decision of like, I know a lot of people are looking forward to this or anything. Just home games. The number of times I've been like, y'all, I want nothing more than to be playing this with all y'all. Like, of course, I want to be in a good headspace and play this fun game with my friends. But I just can't. I can't weave the thoughts I need to weave right now, and I can't I can't deliver to you the session that I want to be able to do. I can't deliver to you a session that you deserve to have, especially if it's in person and like you're gonna drive to my house or something and whatnot. Like I can't, in like a good conscience, ask you to continue to participate in this thing tonight. Let's just punt, and it's gonna feel bad. No one wants to do that, especially because scheduling is so hard in the first place. But as Fef said, like your mental health is paramount to anything else, and it's better to preserve your mental health than it is to deliver a bad session or worsen the burnout by ignoring your own body and trying to do it anyway and having that bad experience, and then you've given yourself another data point of negative experience while doing this thing, which will worsen the burnout. So
yeah.
It's okay to take breaks, and a break does not mean it's over.
Yeah. And your players should be able to respect that. Because, let's be honest, being a DM is hard work. It's hard work. Every time I'm done with an episode, I go, boo, whoa. And then someone says something, and I'm like, well, hang on. I need to just watch YouTube or something for a bit and just mellow, you know what I mean?
It requires you being
like,
as on as a human can be on for hours straight.
Because a player is sitting there and has one POV, their character. Maybe two, maybe there's two characters, but the DM is the grass you stand on. The DM is every person you could talk to. The DM is everything around you. They are the renderer.
They are the game
of
engine.
The world about you. They are the game engine. Yes, and
a good DM is probably
tiring.
Also managing stage time, so to speak, making sure that each player is getting representation, getting the time that they need, and making sure that each story they're keeping track of all the different story beats. They're making sure things are advancing. They are making sure the world is moving around the players as well as what the players are doing. It's so much. And
There's so much.
That's why I love it. I love being in that state, but it is not sustainable. It's just not. And you need to, after a few hours, like you do it for fits and starts. You're not doing it 48 hours straight, hopefully.
I'm actually chewing on the idea of a D&D subathon.
Oh my God. That would be brutal.
I think I can do it.
Thank you so much, Heston.
I accidentally DM'd for 14 hours straight.
Dear Lord.
Off stream. And it was just like, you guys good to keep going? Yeah, sure. Are you good to keep going? Yeah, I'm having fun. All right, let's just keep going. And then it was like, oh, the sun's coming up. Oh, the sun's coming up. I used to juggle off stream before the campaign, before I was streaming. I used to juggle 11 different campaigns because the big kryptonite of D&D is scheduling, right? So my solution, like in idiot was was, oh, whoever shows up, it's that campaign. So if it's you, you, and you, that's this campaign. If it's you, 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 and you, it's this campaign. If it's just you, that's a solo campaign. And I just had one for every alternative, every solution. And the trick to that was make them all wildly different. This one's about dragon riders. This one's a cursed swamp. This one, you're in a city. This one, you're orphan children trying not to starve to death. You know, you're street rats, and and just make them all fundamentally different, but like vastly different. And that was the only way I was able to keep all of that in my brain.
I can't even imagine trying to run like the same campaign 11 times and keeping track of where each individual group is within the same campaign and all of the differences. That would be bonkers.
People do that though. There's like whole servers. What's the game called? It's called it's a lot of written RP. Whatever.
Unclear.
Yeah. Unclear. Unknown.
We've got another questions.
Yeah.
I pluralized questions because we actually have quite a few now. So thank you, everybody.
Let's go.
Former Future Frog asks, I'm trying to populate a magic forest with some encounters for my players. Any tips? Additional context? In these woods, a druid circle attempted to bring back a dead god and failed due to the action of one of my PC's parents.
Oh, that's cool.
Fun. Some stuff that's already
really
there
cool.
is an awakened scorpion that runs a magic shop, old ruins of an overrun outpost, and a field of lightning flowers.
Cool.
I like this
Someone's
forest.
played Elden Ring.
I like this.
Yeah, that's a cool forest. I like this a lot.
It's a good forest.
First of all, talking trees.
Yes.
Second of all, fairies. Third of all, moss that is politically charged.
Yeah, gotta watch out for the politically charged moss.
Problematic moss.
Honestly, spores.
Spores. Yep.
Spores are. You can do so much with spores.
Squirrel folk, tree folk hate them because they keep putting nuts in their brains.
My nuts.
Here's a one that I really love that I think I'm pulling from the world of Runeterra, and that is a petrifying creeping disease that is slowly petrifying the forest, very, very slowly, but it's going. And people hate that because it's stone. There's all sorts of fun things you can do to a forest.
Do moonlight shit. Forests and moonlight just go hand in hand. I mean, that's just like half of my world building involves forests and moonlight. Shocker. Anyway, but yeah, like have a section of the forest where maybe like any source of light. Maybe there's like some kind of like trees that they refract any light into moonlight or something, or into a magical light. And you can do a lot with clearings that don't really make sense, or like you've got a clearing where it's like, big wide open area, but there's still canopy up top, and you're like, why can't I see the sky? And maybe it's not actually a clearing. Also, a dude who, for whatever reason, I guess in D&D there's like the walk in and out of trees thing, but a dude who just walks in and out of trees at random and probably gives you a riddle.
And he's an asshole.
Yeah.
But he's like a charming asshole, you know what I mean? So like half the party wants to kill him, the other half of the party thinks he's neat. Also, very much there could be a faction of people who are like, hey, we're gonna chop down a bunch of these trees because we need the resources and stuff like that, and progress never slows and stuff like that, and kind of have an antagonistic people to the druids. Also, someone in chat said cave that changes places. Names, good one. I like that.
Things that move, so very good.
Yep.
Fog rolling in the morning. A misty fog that rolls in that has some kind of magical effect that probably makes them like hallucinate or something and imagine that they're in an encounter.
Got a fun homebrew race of bipedals that are called Freaquins, and they're just light beings. And if there's no other source of light around them, they just stop existing.
Huh.
And they just, and then when there's another thing of light, they start existing again. They hate it.
Okay.
It feels like for them, they just jump forward in time. But with these forests, maybe there's a dude just trapped in a clearing, and he's scared to go out into the woods because there's so many patches and moving spots of light, and suddenly there's no light, and he's just terrified to go into the woods, and he's trapped in this clearing where the sunlight is.
Dovetailing off of that, one of my favorite gimmicks to pull with light is either you have to do this with either like 2 different types of light or light and shadow. Again, if you mix this with like the moon, I saw that you said that you have a moon god, so you could do like specifically like the moonlight as it's shining through versus shadow. Have anything that's being touched by light different, like it's revealing an alternate reality or an alternate dimension or something. You can do a lot with like covering up a source of light, and when you do that, it reveals that like the ground that had light shining on it, when it doesn't have light shining on it, it reveals a big hole. I actually had a campaign, or I was a player in a campaign where we were it was this ridiculous module that my brother was running for us, and there was a hole that had like a room that did something like this, where there was like light that was moving around, and as it was moving, this like hole in the ground would appear or disappear. One of our players accidentally found himself like in the hole, holding on to the edge of the ledge, and the light moved over it and got rid of the hole. Cut his fingers off.
Nice.
So
there was a child's video game back when I was a kid on PC, and it scared the piss out of me because I was scared by a lot of things. I don't watch horror movies. I'm easily spooked. But there were these holes that were just like swallowing up people here and there. But you would just find the hole and like a hat next to it, and the hole looked like it was breathing, you know? And it was just like, hate that. Hate it. And also with so many big trees and so many roots, there could be caverns and pathways that are just under the surface, you know? We can get gopher folk running around and doing stuff or something like that.
Not to mention there's always the mycelium network, the fungal network underneath the forest. There's a lot you can do with that, and every world that I built, this is the forests and moonlight shit. Anyway, moving on.
Oh yeah, mushroom people?
Yes.
I love mushroom folk, myconids, all of it.
There's a forest in one of the worlds that I work on that has 2 rival tribal factions. One is like worships and is like their god is essentially the mycelium network in the forest that they're in. They like worship the fungal network that is like doling nutrients out and whatnot. And then the other faction worships the actual trees themselves. Like they believe that the trees like root them to reality and are like essentially to be revered. And so these 2 factions are like one is the recipient of what the fungal network is doing, and the other one is seen as a parasite, and it's just it's a lot.
And don't be afraid to usurp expectations. They're headed to the forest. Watch out for these dwarves. They're crazy. They'll kill you. They got machines and stuff like that, and they're greasy, and they're trying to take out the forest. Then you get there, and they're shepherds, and they're just commoners, and they're tiny, right? They're small size, so they got these roots, and they live under the trees, and they make little homes under the roots of the trees, and so they're just shepherds, and they're just little guys. But you go in thinking, oh, these dangerous dwarves, and then they're like, hi, would you like a biscuit?
Always populate your forest with people who are offering biscuits. That's the important part.
Next question.
Thank you for your question. Here's the next question. This one comes from Potato again.
Hello, Potato.
Hello,
Welcome back.
Potato. Question. Do you create the towns or cities in the world and let a player character choose their hometown from them, or let the player characters create their own hometown and place them in the world?
I defer to the player. I've never had a player want to create an entire town. But generally I say, here's your options. Here's what they're like. Or they'll say something like, I want to come from a town that's kind of like this, and I'll build that for them. I've never had a player build their own town before. I could see that getting real tricky.
It gets hard.
I could see that kind of becoming problematic down the road.
It definitely is difficult to, especially if they don't have the full context of the world and they don't really feel comfortable knowing exactly what they would want to build. But there's also working with them, right? Like I've definitely had, there's like the sort of the middle ground there. I've definitely had players that wanted to be from, they wanted to have some sort of context in their background, and I wasn't able to find a great place for them to be, and I was like, well, this calls for a new place. I've got space, it's my world, I can make new space, and work with them and get a spec sheet, like what do you need, like what kind of environment should it be, and whatnot, and however involved or uninvolved they want to be, that's fine. But the important part, and what I love, the premise of this question is having the players have a town rooted in your world and being thoughtful about what that means. Because it's important.
They will always, as a player, not always, they will, I predict that they will favor that town too much.
Yes. And it's akin to working with players to ask about NPCs that are associated with them. You know, you ask them like who are your like friends, foes, relatives, goals, like someone you're trying to chase after, someone you're trying to run away from, stuff like that. That's all well and good, but it's not like you want to have that be the only NPCs that are interacting with them. And they can bring, even if they bring fully formed NPCs and then hand them over to you, you still need to put your own flavor on them, and you're still going to put your own rules on what happens where.
I would say if they're a veteran player and they're not trying to create loopholes, they're not trying to create advantages for themselves, and then yeah, sure, we can work together and build a city together, and that can be your city you're from. But if you're new, I feel like there's too much like, oh, and there's a secret treasure over here that's buried that no one knows about and stuff like that, and trying to give themselves little advantages here and there, which is me inventing problems. I'm not saying that this will happen. So, you know, it's very situational. I would say tentative, cautious, yes. With the DM, this is what I do. I always point out, I always say, like, I reserve the right to veto. And I'll do that for, yeah, grab whatever magic items you want of this rarity. I reserve the right to veto.
Yeah.
Because they're always going to find something that's game breaking. They're always going to find something that is going to be problematic or too powerful in comparison to the rest of the party, because party balance is very important. No, you can't be a dragon. We're level 3. Dude. Anyway.
Yeah. No, it's so annoying. People with like a not busted. When you're the type of player that wants to immediately go for the power fantasy as opposed to like being a part of the ride that gets you there, that's a difficult player to work with. And I think that's a relatively, I don't want to say immature thing, because it's not about maturity. It's about like experience in doing this specific thing, where like the more you do it, the more you realize the fun is when you aren't all powerful.
Alternatively, if the entire party consists of that and they're all on board and they're all down to clown, then that's a whole other campaign. That's a completely different vibe, and you can run that. I personally have no problem whatsoever with min-maxers, as long as everyone's in on it. As long as everyone's cool with it. And if everyone's min-maxing, that means they're all very good at doing their thing, and you can just bump up your challenge rating of your encounters by like 4.
Yeah.
And that just means you get to take the gloves off, which is great in my opinion. I get to take the gloves off. I love glass cannon encounters. Very dangerous, very high stakes, but the fights don't last long.
Yeah.
And that complements min-maxers. I don't have a problem with min-maxers as long as everyone's genuinely down and there's still party balance.
Well, thank you again, Potato, for more question. We've still got questions.
Hit me, I'm ready.
So let's keep going. This next one comes from Kryptonite. Ooh. Says, how do you expand a DM's world while being a player?
Ask questions.
Yep. Poke holes.
Or just strike off. Just be like, you know what? I want to go check out a library. I would like to check out a library. And then you go to the library, and now there's a library.
Yeah. That library definitely did not exist before.
Or maybe you learn that there isn't a library. This place doesn't have a library. That's interesting. Why is that? And then you can expound upon it.
The number of times that somebody has been like, okay, I think while we're here, I want to go XYZ. And I'm like, that's definitely something you can do, as I'm writing furiously in my notes. And having.
Or if you say no, have a really compelling no.
Yeah.
It's not a shutdown, it's a what's going on here, actually.
And depending on the campaign, and this is easier with some game systems than others, and some campaigns and player groups than others, I will often, if I am caught with my pants down, so to speak, I will just hand the mic to the player and be like, tell me about this place. Like, where are you going? What is it? Who runs it? Do you frequent this place? If it's like the town that you're from, is this a place you frequented?
Or if it's a place somewhere you've been before.
Yeah. Who's there? What is it? And that's a great way to let people have a little bit more agency than just I'm playing the character. Like, they can feel like they are helping build this living, breathing world. And collaborative world building or collaborative storytelling is like what we're here for in the first place. So if it's not detrimental or dangerous to any kind of plans, to just let them fill in this freeform detail, go for it.
And then that will be so much more valuable to them.
Yeah.
Which means when you take it away from them, it'll hurt all the more.
There was a player in one of my Blades in the Dark campaigns that established that he had a friend who ran a chop shop, like a garage, like an auto garage.
That's cool.
And that became a fixture. That became like one of the reference points for like everything downstream from it. Was like, it became a hideout, it became a safe house, it became a meeting point. It became so critically important to just mundane activity. But it was just a player being like,
I'm into that.
yeah, I head to this place. It's my friend's garage and blah, 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 blah. And it came out of nowhere. It was an off-the-cuff, offhand thing. And it made total sense that it should exist. And we made the characters who staffed the place, and they became important NPCs. Very much helped flesh out the world and became a core part. It was great.
My fan isn't coming through, is it?
No.
Okay, I'm seeing my thing light up every now and then, so I want
I
to
don't-
make sure we had quality audio.
I don't hear it, so I think
I'll
we
take
are
it.
okay. This next question, Kryptonite, thank you so very, very much. This next question comes from Salmon.
Salmon! Great name.
Hello,
Scrumptious.
Salmon. Says, how do you avoid world builder's disease? Additional context says, world builder's disease is when one keeps adding detail, usually ending in burnout. How do you find the silver line from needed to... Sorry. How do you find the silver line from needed versus additional detail?
Get on the phone with your players. Figure out... let's say... I need to rephrase the question. I need to rephrase my answer because we're talking about world building, not necessarily that you have your characters figured out yet. That's kind of tricky.
Yeah, I mean, I would, if I may, while you're kind
by
of
all
collecting
means.
thoughts, I force myself to just get the bullet points that are immediately in my head out. And then I move on. Unless I specifically need to explain something and have something ready for a plot reason. Which, especially if I don't have a campaign yet, I don't really need to. But the important thing, again, I'm gonna say this every single stream. If you're not writing a source book, don't write a source book. If you're just trying to get a world cobbled together, more often than not, 3 bullet points will be everything you need for any given thing until you need to solidify it.
Yeah.
Part of it just comes down to getting comfortable with what feels like an incomplete thing, but is just getting your thoughts on paper or digital paper, whatever it may be, because you will otherwise forget it. Because I say, as a person who always has an idea and is like, this idea is so good, I definitely won't forget it, and then I immediately forget it, just get your thoughts down and move
I'm
on.
gonna say something that is a little controversial.
Sure.
You have a responsibility to yourself to avoid burnout. You realize you should realize that you're heading towards burnout and stop.
I don't disagree. That can be very difficult sometimes.
True.
Especially
But you should
when
be
you're
taking care of
finding
yourself.
fun in the
Yeah.
activity that you're doing and not realizing the toll it's taking.
But you should be taking care of yourself. You should be stopping and saying, "Hey, is this enough for right now?"
100%.
Don't get to the burnout point.
Set a timer.
And that comes with experience.
Get yourself a reason to get out, you know?
Yeah, that comes with experience. That comes with, hey, you know, I'm not saying that it just be better. You know, I'm saying you should try. You should try to keep your mental health in mind as you go.
Truly, truly, truly important. And it's again, the thing that we're talking about here is doing a fun hobby. We're talking about fantasy worlds and playing games with our friends and coming up with entertaining stories. And for a lot of people, it's where you want to spend your time, and it's compelling. But with anything, if you are completely engrossing yourself in that one thing constantly nonstop, you're going to burn out. Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing.
Yeah.
I'm probably the first person to ever say that. Gina is popping off in chat real quick. Let's just so on the topic of mental health, let's talk to the resident TTRPG / psychotherapist. I think part of your responsibility lies in having the people around you you trust to call you in and help you see it.
Yeah, I have a standing rule that if all of my mods are agreeing that I need to stop doing literally anything, I stop.
She continues, sometimes we find ourselves in a space where we struggle to see the line until after we've crossed it.
Right.
Following that,
So it'll come with experience.
I may be on a Gen Con panel about this, she says.
Hell yeah, let's go.
Go to Gen Con. Hey, shout out, by the way, anybody here, if you're going to Gen Con, I'm going to be there, Fev's going to be there, Gina's going to be there on a panel, potentially, maybe. And come say hi.
Yeah, also, me and Dev are going to be on one of my panels sponsored by the Crit Awards, the do's and don'ts of DMing and Q&A. And I think that is on Friday at 2. Nope, Saturday at 1.
Saturday at 1.
I'm running 2 panels. I get them mixed up all the time. But we will be talking about this exact thing, mental health. And don't let yourself be so consumed. Do not let yourself be so consumed. I realize that that's hard. Don't let something that is giving you the happy brain chemical dictate you. Don't let it control you. That's just in all things. And I realize that is hard. I realize that is difficult. But if you're not even keeping burnout on the brain, if you're not even keeping your mental health on the brain, at least in the back burner, then yeah, you're going to run into more problems than you're not going to. If you were being active in making sure, in trying, just try to keep your mental health on the back burner, and it will help 9 times out of 10.
I just want to give a quick shout out. Gina's panel is going to be Sunday morning. It is called Burnout and Creative Fatigue. So if this is a topic that you want to hear a literal expert talk on, definitely check that panel out.
This offense is good defense.
Yeah. And to that end, like, there are things you can do to both help get a little bit of a break in space without completely separating yourself from the thing that you're enjoying doing. I do this all the time. I feel like I'm hitting a creative wall. I feel like I need to keep moving, and I'm not ready to put down whatever context I have in my head, whatever I've got going on. I'm just not comfortable with stepping away in this moment. But I force myself to physically step away from the computer, notepad, or whatever, and just go for a walk. I'll walk my dog. I'll just go for a walk to the woods or something, and just keep all that thought in my head. It'll naturally fizzle out after a while, but you will then be able to sift through all those thoughts. And I always come back with an answer to a question I couldn't answer before, and 36 new ideas.
2 things. One, I have an ongoing joke called we'll be gearing up for an episode, and it's 2 hours before stream time, and I don't know how to make things work. I call it, I'm gonna go take my magic shower. And I go to the shower and I put on some music that I'm going to play in the campaign tonight, and everything changes. Your whole brain will shift because you're in that comfort of the nice hot water, and you're cleaning yourself, you're taking care of yourself, and usually I will come up with things will lock into place. Also, feel free to step away from your idea. If you're hitting a wall, go watch some YouTube. Go and you might spark some inspiration on a whole other thing, and suddenly things start connecting and tying together, and you'll come at it from a different angle that you never would have seen coming if you were just beating your head against the same problem.
I back in the same job where I named the thing Yellow Brick, every day, virtually every day, a friend of mine and I would, during lunch, play Smash Bros. Just beat the shit out of each other.
Nice.
The number of bugs that I solved mid-fight, like we'd be in the middle of just beating, like just going to town on each other and beating the hell out of each other, just like getting into this big rivalry, and then I'll hit pause and be like, I just figured out how to fix that thing. And it's because my brain is on a completely different subject.
Let
but
your
I have
subconscious chew on it.
Yeah. So
put it on the back burner.
Yeah. Thank you so very much, Salmon, for your question. Moving right along, we're actually making our way. Our next question comes from Name. Hello, Name.
Hello again, Name.
Question: favorite ways to retract or redirect attention of the party to something else, or how to make it more naturally focus on the parts you want them to focus on. So, like, how do you draw attention to things
without interrupting rhythm, without
it
like
being
in a subtle way,
super contrived, without it being like there's yellow paint painted on all these objects, or like the wind blows you in this direction.
Yeah. Would you like to go first?
Sure. I will frequently lean on this is cheap, but I will frequently lean on an innate sense of being pulled towards something. If I'm telling a story, I said this last time. I always have some sort of crystal, magic crystal of some kind. There's gonna be an artifact. It's gonna be a magic crystal.
Yeah.
Everything's a fucking magic crystal. It's a red crystal. It's a blue crystal. It's a green crystal. Whatever. Magic crystals. They do everything.
We do love our crystals.
And if you just need an arbitrary reason why they're being sought out, you got like a pull. They've got like a magnetic pull almost that is ever so slight, but can ramp up as you get closer. It's, getting hotter, getting warmer, getting colder. And I will use that and the absence of that to tell players, like, you are in a plot relevant space or a not plot relevant space. That's one of my go-to moves. Of course, there's a million ways.
Dangling shiny is shiny. Jingle, jingle, jingle.
Jingling some keys in front of your players.
Yeah. There is Offbeat once told me, if you ever approach me with an NPC that says, yo, that ain't the move, I will question what I am doing and listen to that NPC. But that's a direct way. So what's a subtle way? There's a lot of things you can do. It's hard to be so algorithmic about it. I would say that something pulls at your attention. There's this thing, and don't fully describe the thing, but if you know your player, if you know your character, you know what they're into, and you can pull from that inspiration. Or reoccurring bits, like reoccurring jokes, is a great way. Like for example, I had one time, because I'm a theater of mind preference over maps, we got hung up on this corner in combat, this damn corner, and it became known as the Eldritch Corner.
The Eldritch Corner.
Yeah, the editor made the episode made the title of the episode the Eldritch Corner, and it is my bane. And I will slow the roll of the current scene to make a joke about the Eldritch Corner. And then when everyone's kind of on that and having a good time, or some other callback, I will introduce new stuff to bring to pull them away towards other things.
There's also a lot you can do with just glimpses of things.
Yep.
Often people, like, this just happens in real life. You're walking around, you just catch the very tail end of something, and if your curiosity really is piqued, then you can go investigate. But perhaps you just barely see the flash of something gleaming as somebody turned the corner into an alleyway, or a couple of kids were running. As you were describing the street that your players are on, a couple of kids like run through the crowd, and like one of them bumps into you and then continues on. And maybe that kid just pickpocketed you, and now you have a reason to go that way. Or maybe not. Maybe you just think that happened. Or are they running from something? Alternatively, architecture and putting I mean, this happens in real life too. Like, think about the design of a like a city center, or even really an airport, a location that is designed to draw your attention in a certain way. So you're in this town where, like, everything in the town, all of the streets sort of like funnel towards this one central point, or maybe this one street that just happens to have a statue that is, framed by the street and the buildings around it, and it's just immaculately portrayed very clearly. This is an important object, and might want to go read that inscription.
Also, alternatively, if the party is really adamant about going in a certain direction or pursuing a certain scene, be open to the idea that maybe what you've got planned can be shifted and shuffled and made applicable to the current scene.
That's what I was talking about earlier with
the
linking stuff up by using sort of abstract concepts.
Yeah.
Just play the same scene out that you were going to do anyway, but it's in the direction that the players wanted to go. They don't know that it wasn't supposed to happen there.
Oh yeah, right or left? I've only got one thing prepared, mind you.
Obvious exits are north, south, east, and west, and they all go to the same damn room. Thank you very much,
DM's not perfect. The DM's not perfect, It's okay. It's okay. And sometimes, genuinely, it's okay to be like, hey guys, I'm gonna be honest. We're in a direction I hadn't really thought of. So let's take 5. Grab yourself a slice of pizza, drink some water, take your meds, fuel the flesh mech for a second, and let me cook. And then you sit down and you kind of try to drone them out, and then you cook, and then you think. That is super valid. It is super valid to be like, I, as the DM, need a break because I need to render. I need time to cook, and because that's valid.
Yeah. Thank you so very much for the questions. I think we are going to put a pin in viewer questions for now, as we have about a little under 15 minutes left. Just kind of want to like bring it back in, do some closing thoughts and all that good stuff. So first things first, Fef, thank you. Thank you for coming out here. And actually, yes, let's do this real quick. Heston, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Heston just reminded me, we have a pending Dev Rolls dice.
Oh.
Fef, if you want to do the honors once more.
Absolutely. I will roll my
any
D100.
combination of any dice.
I will roll this D100 made of pretty blue rock.
Pretty blue rock.
That is a 24.
24. There it is.
Excellent. And earlier I rolled a 14, I believe. So
yes.
4s.
Got a lot of 4s going on.
Got a lot of 4s going on.
But Fef, thank
Pay
you
attention to 4s.
so very much. Oh, Potato just redeemed one. And we're gonna do one of my favorites. This is a little rolling strategy I like to call roll the rubber trans D20. And however many times I'm just gonna throw it, and I'm gonna multiply the result by however many bounces it does before it lands. So Let me make
That's
sure I get
fun. I
this
like that.
in frame. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, it came back. It was 6, and then it rolled directly to my feet. Amazing.
Now come back, Boomerang.
And it was a 4. It was
Four?
a 4.
All right.
So
4 times 6.
is 24.
Again with the 4s, 24. Well, thank you so much for having me. This was incredible. I would love to
Getting
do
back
this
to
again.
the closing out part now.
This was an absolute blast. I love talking about this kind of stuff, and I can talk about it all day.
Yeah. Weird
Like this
weird
went by
how
entirely
we
too
can do
fast
that.
for me. I want to talk about more stuff.
Yeah, we have more outstanding questions, and we cut off multiple topics in addition to not doing the taking a
The
crack
think
at
tank.
fleshing out your world again. But depending on timing, maybe a future World Building Wednesday, we can make that our like dedicated focus so that we can really get a lot of ideas going there.
I'd love to.
It could be a very very fun time.
But yeah, I'm the dungeon master for Quincy, Offbeat Outlaw, Ben Brainerd, all these amazing content creators, Taylor and Tracy, that dorky cosplayer, Critfell Jake, Dat Dirty Taco, Fish Finley, and Small Bird Lex, and all of these amazing Shane Wally, all of these amazing content creators that you know and love. And we all have them on the long shot table, so feel free to come on over, take a peek. I promise you will enjoy yourself if you are into D&D at all, or any tabletop or story weaving of any kind. We've got your fix, and we've got, honestly, professionals. They're amazing. They're so good at what they do. They're so entertaining, and I love working with them so much. And Luna Wolf Spirit, that was the one. I knew I was gonna forget one. Like halfway through, I was like, oh no, I shouldn't have started this this cast roll. But yeah, phenomenal beings across the board, with phenomenal guests every now and then as well. Just so much fun. This is easily what I want to do with my life.
I'm trying to pull up oh, there we go, your link tree. That would do it. Trying to get your YouTube.
Yeah, it's called Long Shot.
There
It's fantastic.
we go.
Feel free to
posting it in
deep
chat.
dive into the hours and hours and hours and hours of content on there.
Absolutely. Yeah, again, like y'all, there's years of content here with some really
Years of
amazing
multiple
people.
campaigns.
And yeah, if you need something to sink your teeth into, absolutely check out his work. And be sure, again, if you're on I think you can only do it on desktop, but his channel is linked in the title of the video. Be sure to click through, follow. This bean right here is just lovely. And you should be engaging with their work. So thank you again, and thank you to everybody in chat for the roles, for the gifted subs, for the questions, for just hanging out and being here and being so lovely. And it's one of my favorite parts of World Building Wednesday so far has been when we're like, either we're having a chat, or like if we were doing some world building and I'm just like hammering away at some notes or something, and I glance over at the chat. And like the folks in chat are just having their own go of it. Like they're just talking about ideas and riffing off of each other. I've seen while you and I were talking, Fef, there was just conversations going on in chat. People have been like, that's a great idea. Also, you could do this.
Yeah.
You helping each other as well is like, that's the sauce right there.
We are good soup.
Yes, we are the soup.
We
collectively.
are the soup.
And so, yeah, thank you all for being such a wonderful and supportive community. And on that note, a couple of quick closing shout outs and links and whatnot. Speaking of community, I have a Discord. You should join it. It's, if you like the vibes here, it is that, but pretty much constantly. If you want to keep up with all the crap I'm doing these days, check out my socials. I've been posting just a lot of random one-off stupid jokes recently, but you can follow me and get all the updates there. I have a VOD channel if you want to go back if you missed the beginning of this. We did get a question that I'm sorry that I opted to skip over because it was our first topic today. So
Oh,
it was the topic of like, how do you even get started? So I highly recommend for anybody who didn't catch the first like hour or so of this episode of this show, go check out my VOD channel. It's got everything you need. And that's all I'm going to plug for now. That's not true. I'm going to plug one more thing. I have partnered with Many Worlds Tavern. They are absolutely wonderful folks, and they make incredibly tasty tea and coffee. So if you want some caffeinating beverages in the highest of quality, and you want to support some folks who are doing so in the TTRPG space and supporting inclusive TTRPG communities and making free content for TTRPG creators to use, check out Many Worlds Tavern. And thank you, Milo, for doing the macro for me. I appreciate that.
Nice.
Go get yourself some delicious items. Stock out your inventory. Fef, I believe you have a recommendation for someone to raid?
I do. Their name is Vexwild. They're an amazing content creator in the D&D space, and also does like Lego streaming and stuff like that, and it just has the best vibes. Wholehearted recommending a follow for this one. Vexwild is just, I can't recommend them enough. They're absolutely phenomenal. Good head on their shoulders. She's a bean, and yeah, good
Through and through. Alrighty, well, we will kick off a raid over to Vex. Let's do it. Start raid. Thank you all for hanging out with us tonight on World Building Wednesdays, and thank you one more time, Fef. Hope to have you on again quite soon.
Be honored.
Take care. Be well. I'll see y'all on Friday. Let's raid.
All right. Bye.